At 15, the rite of aptitude ceremony erupts, igniting raw magical power inside every human. When the priest intones the appraisal, the seed of magic inside them snaps awake and they finally discover their magical aptitude. And Alto, the dark-haired kid, sits in the ornate ceremonial room, pulse pounding as he waits for his turn. Lily, the blonde who's been Alto's childhood friend, snaps him back to attention and warns the ceremony will lay bare everyone's magic type and exactly how many spells they can unleash at once. Alto snaps a curt nod. If the ceremony goes right, a commoner can be vaulted straight into the nobility, and that's how huge this is. Lily drops a bomb. Alto's dad blasted from commoner to marquis on sheer magical aptitude. The pressure on Alto is crushing. Alto snaps that the rest of their lives are on the line today. The very thought shoots a chill through him. Lily nods, saying she's heard it's brutal to land a job if your aptitude comes up low. Lily's eyes snap to the clock. She barked at Alto, "We have to go now." Shoulder to shoulder, they plunge through a curtain that looks like rain. Lily stares daggers at Alto and snaps, "Why are you still in that same outfit on a day like this? Seriously." Alto groans that picking clothes is a total pain, and Lily snaps that as his childhood friend she should know him by now, then admits she only has the same clothes, too. She erupts, snapping that he could have at least dressed up today. This is literally a once-in-a-lifetime ceremony. Alto snaps that clothes worn just once are a total waste of money. Classic Alto logic. Lily snaps, "You're way too obsessed with cost performance," and snarls, "When a girl dresses up, you should at least compliment her." Alto wonders if a compliment about her clothes could honestly make her happy. Lily snaps that most people would beam at that. She flashes a grin. Even if he couldn't care less, one single word from him can light up someone's world. In his terms, she'd call that pretty cost-effective. Alto froze for a heartbeat, then let the words fly. Someone tells her it's beautiful. Lily gasps, her face lighting up with surprised joy, and Alto grins, admitting she was right. Lily's reaction detonates. Her eyes whirl into spirals as she rockets into cartoonishly over-the-top excitement. Alto stands frozen, realization crashing over him. This isn't what he pictured, while Lily dials her theatrics to 11 and his discomfort swells by the second. Lily's eyes snap to him. Alto had finally loosened up a touch, and a nearby voice cracked in disbelief. The usually unshakable Alto actually looked nervous for once. They pushed on until far off, the grand church rose into view. Lily jabbed a finger and shouted, "I can see it." There, the church where they're staging the ceremony. Inside the church, the priest's voice thundered, declaring, "They will now be." The aptitude ceremony erupts as he thunders for John to step forward. The priest ignites the magic aptitude appraisal ritual, clutching a searing, glowing orb as raw power crackles and surges around him. Then the results slam down, only 2 magic circuits. What's the absolute minimum level for this thing on barrier-wielding fighters? Those knights and adventurers who keep shields up in the thick of battle. It glitters with glamour, but it's a straight-up death sentence. With 4 circuits, a user can slam up a barrier and unleash 3 attacks at once. With just 2 circuits, they can only raise 1 barrier and launch 1 attack. That gap is brutal. The priest's voice snaps as he reads John's results aloud. Water magic E rank, ice magic E rank. Then comes the growth aptitude rating. Brutal truth hits. An F rating devours a staggering 10,000 experience points just to climb a single level. Hold up, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Hungry for more hidden manga gems? I dare you hit the comments. I blasted the comment, "I'm loving it, I bet most of." I can already see most of you backing out. All right, let's keep moving. 5 participants completed the aptitude ritual, and the ceremony thundered on. Sasha's name was called next, and someone muttered that with those magic circuits and that growth aptitude, carving out a life as an adventurer would be a brutal uphill fight. Then Lily's name snaps through the air. She's up next. She spins to Alto, snaps, "I'm going now," and strides straight toward the ceremonial area. Lily edges forward, panic prickling through her veins, hands braided into a white-knuckled grip as she climbs the stairs. He strides straight to the ornate chair where the priest waits. The priest unleashes the magic aptitude appraisal on her. A bearded man watching the ceremony reels back, jaw dropping and eyes wide with pure shock. The priest bellows the verdict, 7 magic circuits. Alto's mind reels, barely catching the truth, and Lily's eyes go wide with the same stunned disbelief. Someone else reels back, disbelief snapping them speechless. The growth aptitude rating detonates onto the screen, a colossal X-rank symbol blazing across it. The priest's gaze devoured Lily's stats. Barrier magic A, flame magic A, waterous magic A, holy magic S, dark magic A, physical magic A, enhancement magic A, appraisal magic A. Every branch of magic blazed at A rank or higher. The onlookers explode into chaos. One shouts that even a single B rank would catapult someone into the league of powerful adventurers. Another bellows she has enough circuits to carve her name into history alongside top-tier adventurers and legendary knights, and they can't believe someone like her actually exists. A prodigy among millions, he set the crowd ablaze with roaring, ecstatic cheers. A shout rips through the crowd, maybe a hero will be born in our generation, while everyone else buzzes about which job Lily will be assigned. Elsewhere, church officials clash. Do they charge straight to the king with the news, or maneuver to secure a private audience first? Stone-faced man declares Lily must stand before the king, and another official, voice tight with regret, apologizes for the sudden summons and urges her to go with the priest. Lily stands frozen, eyes wide and heart racing as a tidal wave of nerves and overwhelm crashes over her. Alto's chest tightens. He can't believe Lily was hiding that kind of power. Pride swells for her, yet a cold hollow opens, like his childhood friend has slipped away to some distant place. Then the priest thundered the next name, Alto. Shock shatters his features as reality slams into him. He stormed down the stairs, barreling straight for the ceremonial chair. Alto steps closer, his mind detonating into a frantic race. He roared in his head that he didn't have to be like Lily. Ignite enough magical aptitude in him to forge him into a knight. The priest launches the magic aptitude appraisal ritual, and the orb flares to life, pulsing with raw power. The announcement blasts the magic circuits to life. A single one flashes up, Alto's face drains into a stunned, vacant stare, and the priest booms the verdict. One magic circuit. Lily pleads, please say that again. And the priest nods, repeating the words with a steady voice that confirms everything. Someone in the crowd calls out. Shock slammed into them. They'd never heard of a result like this before. Another person's eyes go wide. The instant Alto burns a single circuit to raise a barrier, he's completely locked out of every other move. Murmurs ripple through the crowd, disbelief exploding. It all happened in just one circuit. The exam barrels on as Alto crumples to his knees, stunned, while his full stats blaze into view. Alto slumps, sweat pouring down his face, his brain stumbling as he can barely process it. It feels utterly impossible. The ceremony swirls around him as the priest summons the next participant, Reaffirming. Alto slumped out of the ceremonial area, utterly crushed, while examinees streamed through the hall and the rituals thundered on around him. Alto stands alone, the weight of everything crushing him. Knighthood denied, the adventurer's road sealed, and not even an ordinary job offers him a chance. Later, he bursts back onto the family estate. His father pins him with a glare and snaps, "When did you get back?" Alto barely swallows a reply before his dad cuts him off, voice razor-sharp. "I heard about the appraisal results." Alto's father wastes no time. He barks at Alto to leave the house at once. Alto freezes, breath gone, as his father snarls that he's a disgrace to the Wellesley family and coldly declares the heirship will go to his younger brother. In a heartbeat, Alto was flung out, banished and left standing at the estate gates. His father lands the final blow, then snarls, "Never call yourself a Wellesley again." The words slam into Alto like a punch to the gut. Alto stands dwarfed at the mansion gates, small and alone, while his father looms inside the estate, a towering silhouette staring him down. Everything he owned, everything he'd been, vanished in an instant. Alto now marches alone down an empty street, his life stuffed into a small, battered bag. His magic circuits and every affinity are stamped F. He's painfully aware how brutal it already is to land a normal job, and now he's been kicked out of his home. Reality slams into him, tears carving rivers down his face as the unbearable weight of his situation crushes his chest, and he whispers, "How am I supposed to keep living from now on?" A thunderous, furious voice rips through the air as a bald, muscular supervisor bellows at Alto, snarling, "No skill," and ordering him to get things organized, while an overhead shot sprawls a warehouse construction yard with Alto standing among towering stacks of materials and workers scattered around. Alto springs to attention and fires back, "I'm on it." Alto scrapes through each day like it's a battle, while Lily watches from the sidelines as the rookie who just landed his first job is already branded, "No skills." Alto freezes in front of the shelves, brain scrambling as he fights to figure out how he's supposed to pull off this task. The supervisor snaps at him, "Move it." A mountain of work still looms. Later, Alto glares at the meager handful of coins in his palm. He toiled from dawn to dusk, and that's all he walks away with. Reality hurls him into a brutal, low-wage grind. He scrapes and claws just to survive day after day. Then the workday sputters to a close. A hulking, muscle-bound coworker rumbles, "Good work." then growls that he's not finished yet. Alto toyed with the idea of crashing into bed early tonight. The coworker snaps, calling him out. Alto promised he'd work on himself. The boss looms nearby, a knowing smile cutting across his face as he confirms Alto did indeed say that. Unpaid overtime snowballs into a crushing mountain. Eventually, Alto collapses onto the warehouse floor, utterly spent, and forces a crooked smile, telling himself he should be glad someone with no skills like him even got a job. Exhaustion clawing at him, Alto grits his teeth and heaves himself upright. He dives back into organizing and cleaning, hammering through every task with fierce intensity and a steely new determination carved across his face. Someone wrestles a hulking beam, grunting as its crushing weight threatens to pin them. Alto hauls his load, fantasizing how much time and energy he'd save if he could cast a spell and make the lumber float and glide into place. The warehouse sprawls around them like a steel ocean as the work roars on. Later that night, Alto finally collapses from exhaustion, too spent to even stagger back to the inn, so he crashes in the warehouse again for the night. The night sky slammed down as another brutal day gasped its last breath. Alto's mind reels as he fights to remember how long it's been since he last staggered back to the inn. He can't even remember how many nights he's crashed in the warehouse. His stomach roars and hunger slams into him, and under the dim light the place feels even emptier as Alto fights through another shift. The next day slammed in, and Alto had scraped together only 2 ragged hours of sleep. He pins his gaze on the object in his palm, utterly spent, every reserve of energy burned down to embers. Suddenly Lily storms up to the warehouse counter and snaps, "Is there a boy named Alto here around my age?" Alto's gaze lands on her and he freezes, shock pinning him to the spot. The bald supervisor answers Lily, eyes lighting at such a rare, adorable customer, then shakes his head and says flatly they don't have anyone like that here. Lily swears there's someone who knows him. She's dead certain, and she begs them to let her meet him, even for a single moment. Alto crouched in the shadows, eyes glued to the scene as a storm of thoughts ripped through his mind. Lily's been handed a promised future. He imagines her in an elegant gown, ringed by nobles and dignitaries, and him? A skillless nobody with no status, scraping by on meager wages. Alto can't fathom why Lily would choose him when their statuses are worlds apart. He crumples against the stacked materials, powerless to lift his head and face her. Back at the counter, the supervisor stonewalls Lily, firing off slick excuses and coldly insisting there's nothing they can do for her. Lily freezes for a heartbeat. She decides she really doesn't want to use this, but with a fierce yank she pulls something out anyway. Lily thrusts a document toward the men. The bald supervisor narrows his eyes at the scrap of paper and snaps, "What is that supposed to be?" Recognition slams into him, his face snapping rigid. The supervisor goes ashen. The room shifts on a dime. Lily backpedals, blurting that it's her mistake and she'll call him right now. Then a voice rips through the warehouse, screaming Alto. And they reel, heart pounding, desperate to know why it's all happening so suddenly. The document snaps open as a letter of introduction from the Knight Commander, the nation's seal vouching for her identity. It states Knight Commander Lawrence's services are restricted to under 18s, and the bald supervisor barks at his staff not to offend her under any circumstances. He pivots to Alto and promises he'll be right back. The supervisor snarls at Alto not to say anything that could disgrace the guild that took him in. They're making a special exception, handing Lily the meeting room like a coronation, and the supervisor spins it as Alto proving just how wonderful this guild is. They scramble to sway the knights to their side, but Alto cuts through the supervisor's ploy in a heartbeat. He's flipped the script. He should be lavishing the young lady with compliments, not dumping this whole mess on Alto. The bald supervisor brushes Lily's worry aside. "Alto just finished. We're wrapping up. Leaving on time is only natural." And when Lily calls, Alto stops cold, his gaze locking on her as every thought snaps to the sight of her standing there. The supervisor drives the point with raw desperation, practically begging her to take her time. Lily flashes a warm, grateful smile and thanks him politely for his concern. They stride into the meeting room, and Lily asks. She finds Alto after ages, freezes at how rough he looks and asks, "You okay?" Alto forces a smile. "I'm all right," he says, "but it's complicated." When Lily fires off, "What job is Alto doing at this guild now?" Alto's mind raced. This situation was a tangled, impossible mess. From overhead, the shot pins them at opposite ends of the meeting room table, the yawning gulf between them crackling with tension. Then Lily drops the bomb. She's been accepted into the Royal Knight Academy. Alto forces out a congratulation, the tremor in his voice screaming the uncertainty beneath it. At the Royal Knight Academy, aspiring fighters are forged into knights. Pass the knight selection exam and you claim your title. Lily boasted legendary magic and flawless circuits. If she'd had a letter of recommendation from the knight commander, the kingdom might have even invited her to enroll. Lily just dropped the bomb. The midterm transfer entrance ceremony kicks off next week. Once she enrolls, she'll be moving into the dorms, so we probably won't see each other for a while. Alto tells her he's rooting for her, all the while smothering the roaring truth of his feelings inside. Alto hated every second of it, yet a stubborn spark of relief flickered in his chest. They're on completely separate paths that will never cross again, and he pictures Lily striding into a blinding future while she leaves him standing in the dust. Then Lily yanked the conversation into a new lane. She wasn't one to beat around the bush, so she cut straight to the truth, and the next day she showed up at Alto's house right after the aptitude ceremony. When Lily pressed the priest about Alto, he sneered and bluntly declared him a no-skill. She tore to the house. The servant snapped that no one named Alto lived in the mansion. She'd heard the story of Alto's father, Marquis Wellesley, who blasted out of commoner life the moment his magical aptitude flared. The aptitude ceremony can carve a person's fate, and for Alto it snapped into place far too quickly. Lily insisted the priest introduce her to the knights, chased down leads on her own, and today at last tracked Alto down. With tears carving tracks down her face, Lily clutches Alto and chokes out that when she heard he'd been kicked out of his house, she didn't know what she'd do if he wasn't anywhere to be found. Alto goes rigid, eyes wide, her reaction slamming into him like a tidal wave. Lily roared that having no skill doesn't matter at all. Alto reels, baffled that she cares so fiercely. Someone like him with no skill should mean nothing. Lily buries her face in her hands, begging Alto not to vanish without a word again. Alto freezes and calls her name, stunned as the truth slams into him. People actually cared this much. Lily crumbles into a raw, shaking breakdown, jagged lines exploding around her as she screams he was branded, no skill, and had convinced himself he was worthless. Alto locks his gaze, determination sharpening like a blade. He vows that if even one person accepts his existence, that's enough. No matter what his father or the guild members say, that single acceptance is everything. Alto apologizes to Lily for making her worry, voice raw as he insists he's okay now. Tight close-up on both faces, Alto's jaw clenches, determination blazing in his eyes, while Lily's cheeks glisten as fresh tears stream down. Lily snaps at Alto, eyes blazing. Don't ever make me worry like that again. She says if it's him, he'd breeze through guild work with that dead calm, composed look. But Alto admits he's shockingly terrible at getting things done. Lily beams and promises she'll tell him the moment he gets better. He's already plotting ways to squeeze out more efficiency, and she grins, relieved that his usual self is back. A few days later, Alto plants himself on the path, squares his shoulders, and dares himself to try. Since then, he's been ruthlessly streamlining his daily tasks. The scene cuts to the supervisor barking clean at 10 o'clock and ordering him to gather the tableware while Alto scribbles on a clipboard, and he hatches ideas, laser-focused on sharpening his work performance. Alto shrugs off the guild's mockery. They still rag on him, but it barely stings. Today he stole time off his shift, and suddenly there are days he actually gets to go home and finally sleep. Alto charges down the hallway, a burning vow to master his magic driving him, for Lily and for himself. A smaller figure clings to his heels as he wonders if it's because Lily talks to him every day. He figures sometimes you recharge more from devouring Manhwa than from sleep. She treks all the way to the inn to see him. The supervisor strides up to Alto and declares he's joining the adventure party as a helper. They're hauling a mountain of materials and need every extra hand, and Alto, wide-eyed, asks if that's really okay. The supervisor roared at Alto, demanding that even if he has no skill, he at least be able to conjure a basic barrier. Alto bursts back with an electrified, wide-eyed grin of pure enthusiasm. Then Alto's gaze snaps to what's in front of him, and a brutal truth slams into him. He's given up on magic so completely he hasn't even checked his status. Suddenly a status window erupts before him. He freezes, eyes wide, shock roaring through him as he finally lays eyes on it. The status window exploded into a game-like HUD, calories, kai carving, color-produced content, and a pile of other stats logged back to rice noodles, every number frozen at 1. Alto shrugs, says it's only natural. He's literally never used magic even once. Alto's breath catches. He needs 10,000 experience points to hit the next level. The system snaps that every time he uses a skill, he gains 1 experience point, and it warns there are other ways to earn experience too. tear through monsters, and conquer dungeons to claim extra experience points. It hits like a sucker punch. Normal people need about 10 experience points to level up, and as levels climb, the cost slowly rises. Using a skill 100 times earns a level. Level 2 demands 200 XP, level 3 300, level 4 400. Alto has to spam a skill 10,000 times just to claw his way to level 2. Level 3 chews up 30,000 XP, level 4 devours a brutal 40,000. He's literally stuck at a 1-to-100 disadvantage against everyone else. Alto faces a mountain-sized crisis. The obscene amount of experience needed to level up ravages his magic growth, slammed by twin penalties that can trigger all at once. A wielder with multiple magic circuits can slam several skills online at once, trigger 3 at once, and your experience gain rockets up for each skill simultaneously. Stuck with a single magic circuit, Alto's experience trickles in while everyone else rockets ahead. Every time he unleashes just one skill, all the experience pours into that skill alone. He glares at the barrier magic, yes, the spell he can cast, and every angle he probes smashes into the same brutal verdict. He's utterly screwed. Alto snaps open a freshly released magic manual and spots the exact chant he's been hunting. Reciting it should let him wield magic. He pins his eyes to the words and begins. A moment later, Alto unleashes Body Barrier. Shock explodes across his face and melts into a wild, triumphant grin as the spell takes hold. He rips into the barrier's mechanics and discovers the brutal truth. What they call life is just the barrier's durability. The gauge feeds the barrier, deflecting every strike. When it empties, the shield shatters and damage rips through him. He ripped it awake, his status erupted. Barrier magic level 1, experience 1 out of 10,000. The number rockets upward and Alto's mind races. How long will this take? A notification blasts onto the screen, proclaiming that automatic magic awakened the instant magic was used. Alto gapes at his updated status screen, bewilderment crackling as Magic Circuit 1 now reads Automatic Magic, LV. 1, 010000 stamped new. Below it, Barrier Magic clings to LV. 1 at 110000. Then a full roster: Flame Magic, Water Ice Magic, Holy Magic, Dark Magic, Physical Magic, Enhancement Magic, Appraisal Magic, each sits at LV. 1 with 010000 progress. Alto froze, his mind clawing at the mystery of what automatic magic even was, when a system prompt suddenly popped up. I jabbed a stylus at Alto and asked him to write the exact magic he wants Tech Slut 1 to auto-activate. The instructions crackle. To set the magic ablaze, he must picture it in his mind and summon it by either its title or its starting number. Alto devours the info, convinced thinking alone will trigger it. He teases that text 1 might mean a fireball, then a new display flares to life, confirming the startup sequence to activate the fireball. Alto gapes, heart hammering, frozen in shock as the fireball snaps to life. Without a single chant, the skill detonated into existence, something he'd never heard of, and the system flashed level 1 as it confirmed the activation. The display explodes with info. He can register multiple skills in text slot 1 and unleash them one after another. System notifications erupt one after another, each blast unleashing a surge of magic that activates a buff. Alto freezes as the magic snap to life in the exact order he listed, and dread spikes. His barrier still hasn't disappeared. Alto yanked open his status screen and watched his XP shoot up. Automatic magic was handing him experience every time it activated. A thunderbolt of understanding slams into him. Automatic magic doesn't use magic circuits. It bypasses them and ignites the registered skills itself. Alto's mind detonates with possibilities. This system lets him weave layered enchantments that normally demand a magic circuit or non-stop spell spamming, and a lightning realization hits: unlimited experience grinding. The system floods the screen with extra details, unveiling the precise syntax he needs to set repetitions in that exact format. A question blazes in Alto's mind. Can he specify even more repetitions from here? Excitement exploded in him when he realized he could efficiently grind his once hopeless magic into real power. The knight's path still loomed, but becoming an adventurer suddenly felt possible. Lily glares at Alto and snaps, "Was that a joke?" But Alto snaps he'll try it. The idea of casting without a chance still feels impossible to him. Perched on the stairs, the two of them tense as Alto steels himself to test his new ability. The interface explodes into a glowing banner. Magic buff activated. Lily bursts out, "It worked." Eyes wide, she can't believe Alto just pulled off a skill that rare. Alto admits he didn't even know about it until today, Explaining unique skills are a rare kind of magic that flat-out defy the 8 basic systems, like Sword Saint, a world-famous powerhouse that transforms sword technique and movement, and clairvoyance, the uncanny ability to see anywhere while staying in place. Alto drops the bomb. His ability breaks the rules, where other mages must intone each spell to trigger a skill. His automatic magic launches skills on its own without him lifting a finger. Lily's eyes blazed at the implications. No one can beat Alto in activation speed with this ability, and with that edge he can become undeniably strong. Alto snaps that it's not about spamming spell triggers non-stop. He can force the magic to auto-fire by doing something else while the effect runs. His biggest curiosity: can automatic magic spring to life even while he's asleep? Lily practically vibrates with excitement, declaring she can't wait to see what happens next. Alto imagines himself squaring off with a colossal dragon in a pitch-black dungeon cave, and Lily cuts in to point out the glaring snag: automatic magic's amazing, but you can't exactly sleep in a dungeon. Alto snaps that's not what he meant. A bolt of realization strikes him. Starting tonight, he can rake in experience points at insane efficiency, and that's the real problem he must crack. Lily's eyes light up. Maybe he can gain experience automatically while he sleeps. Alto sits there, silent and brooding, admitting he's always thought sleep a waste, spending a fifth of the day unconscious just to recover stamina. Lily snaps, calling him out as the ultimate efficiency nerd. Alto stares, genuinely baffled, and asks, "Isn't that normal?" Alto hesitates, dread clawing at his throat. What if unleashing a barrage of skills while asleep accidentally sets one off? He'd probe the outcome, cranking the activations up a notch each night to watch the results shift. Lily gasps, grinning. Alto's probably the first person in history to try firing off a skill while asleep. Alto snaps that any other approach would be hopelessly inefficient, and Lily's face drains into a stunned, blank stare. Lily's eyes flare as she hatches a brilliant plan. She'll stay the night and stand guard over Alto. Alto grins, calls it a brilliant idea, and agrees she'll jolt him awake the moment anything happens. He hesitates, gives a grateful nod to the suggestion, then warns it would be terribly inefficient for Lily herself, admitting it would only make his own life easier. Lily's cheeks flare crimson at the suggestion she just made, and even the usually unflappable Alto, who almost never runs out of words, goes uncharacteristically silent. Sharing a night under the same roof is getting to him. Alto locks onto what Lily's really after and snaps, "That's not exactly what I meant," while Lily freezes in the doorway, cheeks burning as she scrambles to backpedal her own suggestion. Alto slams the truth down and calls her out, blunt and unflinching. "Are you seriously about to ask for something in return?" Busted, Lily admits something's going on. Alto points out his day off is in 2 days. Lily confirms and vows she'll ask for one thing then. A once-a-year guild appreciation party to thank helpers is coming up, but Alto says he can't go and isn't interested. Lily drops the bomb. The Royal Knight Academy entrance ceremony is tomorrow. She needs every last thing and begs Alto to go shopping with her, and Alto confesses he can't stand the crush of the town. Alto sits, mind racing through every possible outcome. If he rigs his magic to run on autopilot, training grinds away while he lives. A shopping run turns into hidden practice. He used to scorn splurges and aimless browsing as pointless, but maybe, for the first time in ages, roaming the town could actually pay off. Lily pictures school starting, knows they won't see each other for a while, and admits a small loneliness tightening in her chest. Alto admits his wallet's dry, but he'll shadow Lily through the shops if she's cool with him tagging along. Lily scoffs, declaring that even if he had money, she can't picture Alto chomping at the bit to go shopping. That night, Alto surrenders to sleep, while Lily keeps a silent, unwavering vigil just a breath away. She leans over his sleeping face, jaw tightening. It's unchanged since back then. Memories crash over Lily like thunder. She and Alto were born the same day, and they've been inseparable ever since. She still remembers little Alto declaring he'd be a knight, and admits his fire dragged her along, sparking the same dream of armor and glory. Lily keeps vigil over Alto's sleeping form, a raw ache knotting in her. She'd been certain they'd always be together. Reality slams down. In a class-based society, the gulf between ranks yawns wider with every passing day. When she heard the Royal Knight Academy was a boarding school, doubt slammed into her, and she couldn't say yes on the spot. Images of Alto's father and family flooded her mind, and a cold, unavoidable truth slammed into her. This would be her final farewell to Alto. Lily replayed the shock of learning about turning down enrollment, torn inside. Then today's electric Alto hit her and shifted something deep within. She wrestles with whether she can still cling to their shared dream of becoming knights, while his unique skill erupts with furious, undeniable power. Even his auto magic checks out, humming like a loaded engine. In her memory, young Alto stands frozen as she locks eyes with him and vows she'll become a knight. Sunlight crashes through the curtains and Alto snaps awake, discovering. He discovers Lily still lost in slumber and opts to let her sleep a little longer. As he sits there, a system notification detonates onto the screen. His sleep training test for the 5,000 magic buff has been suspended because his mana ran dry. It will resume once his mana recovers, and it bluntly tells him to cancel processing next time to avoid this. Alto's pulse spikes, the skill actually worked. Lily never woke him, so he deactivates it for now. Alto's eyes blaze as realization hits. He can train even in his sleep, and exhilaration surges through him. Panic claws at him at the thought of his mana running dry. Then he realizes it regenerates on its own like tired legs catching their breath if he stops using skills, the catch. He can't cast a single skill while it rebuilds. Alto snaps up his status, and it just flashes Expo. Overnight, his experience shot up by 80. His auto magic is locked at level 1, maxed to 100% toward the 10,000 mark, and his flowerless magic just leveled up to Elvon at 803 of 10,000 points. His shout about the automatic magic progress rips Lily from sleep. She blinks blearily and croaks, "What's going on?" At work, the warehouse supervisor roars at Alto, demanding he work harder. Walto snaps back, energy crackling, and powers through his tasks without skipping a beat. Alto's chest tightened as he realized awakening automatic magic hadn't made him stronger. He still needs a mountain of experience points, far more than anyone else to level up, and his skill power hasn't budged. The tense atmosphere at work and the relentless demand to keep his skills razor sharp are slowly burning him out. Battered by brutal conditions, Alto claws a gleaming silver lining out of the wreckage. Power surges through him every second, wherever he goes, and that thing that makes the grind effortless lights the ruthless fire he needs to keep pushing. Later, Alto and Lily burst into Minton, hearts racing as they dove headfirst into their shopping trip. Alto spun his head, swallowing the sight of a city far bigger than he'd imagined as they threaded through the bustling market streets together. After scouring the stalls for a while, they stare at the towering haul they've just bought and blurt, "Can we even carry all of this?" Lily grins and, with a burst of float magic, sends their purchases bobbing into the air. Someone nearby blurts, "She's using magic to carry everything." Lily beamed, urging them onward to the next store. Lily drops the bomb, "This is the last shop." Alto snaps that they already hit a clothing store earlier, and Lily admits it. She's dead set on the pieces only this shop has. Lily shrugs with a wry smile. "This is going to drag on, Alto, so go scout that training center over there." Alto throws up his hands and grins. Shopping with her is always a chaotic adventure. Alto asks what kind of facility it is, and Lily snaps, "You don't know," before firing back that most people can't just train attack-type skills wherever they please. Lily crackles with excitement and explains there's a place called the training center where anyone can unleash low-level skills as much as they want without worrying about wrecking property. And Alto figures it must cost money because nothing's ever free. Alto's eyes fly wide when Lily drops the bomb. He's on staff and the place is partnered with the guild, so he pays nothing. Alto tells Lily he's racing to the training center right now. He bursts through the doors of the Minton Training Center, and the instant he crosses the threshold, his jaw drops. The place is shoulder to shoulder, absolutely jam-packed. Someone nearby shouts, "Why is it so jammed today of all days?" Turns out monsters have been springing up around Minton, along the mountain roads, even down in the mines. That's what's fueling the chaos and panic. Someone groans that guild requests have spiked and they're desperate for hands. Another blurts, "Which job gets priority?" Then it slams into them. That's exactly why they called Alto in as a gopher. Already at the training center, Alto grins and rips through every attack skill in his arsenal, testing each one in a blistering display. A few hours later, Lily tracks Alto down and shouts his name. She drops the shopping bags with a triumphant toss and fires, "I'm done. What have you been up to?" Alto admits his mana's completely drained and collapses into a break, convinced training's done for today. Alto explodes into a victorious whoop, shouting that they really got to use the facility for free. Lily's grin sharpens as she snaps, "I told you so." Alto explodes with excitement, crowing that a top performance for zero cost is the best bang for the buck. Then he spins to Lily and fires off a question about the luggage. Lily reveals she handed the luggage off to a traveling merchant who doubles as a transporter, then thanks Alto and Hako for the day. Alto shrugs that he just tagged along and asks if she's really okay with it. Lily grins that she loves wandering and browsing together when they shop, then laughs that Alto's become obsessed with squeezing the most value out of every purchase. Lily's voice tightens as she says, "Starting tomorrow, we won't be able to chat like this for a while." Then her words trail off, and she murmurs there's something else. Alto snaps, "You're right." Awe surges through him as he thinks, everything she does is jaw-dropping. Alto feels his whole self was forged by Lily's constant pull. Without her, he'd be alone, and right now he might not even be able to keep looking up. Lily fixes Alto with a fierce gaze and snaps, "You need to hear this." She pins Alto with a fierce, nostalgic stare and says, "Do you remember the day you told me about your dream? I was crying over something small and you told me to cheer up." Alto vowed that when everything fell apart, someday an ally would rush in to save her. And if no one came, he'd become her knight and sweep her to safety so she'd be okay. Then the scene snaps into a childhood memory of them, sitting together under a tree. Alto asks when this was. Lily dives into the memory. She was only about 8. Alto cringed. He realized that even as a kid, he'd rushed his words miles beyond his years. But Lily leans in, eyes flashing, and snaps, "Is that really the part that embarrasses you?" She admits she drifted through days playing for kicks with no real goal, until time with Alto lit a fierce hunger to become a knight at his side. Alto declares he believes she can rise as a first-rate knight who will lead the country, and that she's about to take the first step toward making that dream real. Lily snaps, "Were you even listening, Alto?" She vows her dream is to don armor and become a knight fighting at Alto's side. Stepping into the academy first, she seizes a slim head start toward the starting line. Alto yells it'll take him a little while, but vows he'll catch up. He pleads with her to wait for him. Lily nods and vows she'll be waiting, and the moment ignites into a promise reborn between them. Lily's eyes spark as she leans in and declares, "I've got something for you, Alto." She thrusts a gleaming object into his palm. It looks like a protective accessory. Forged from the scales of the dragon the knight had slain, it's razor-thin and needs no upkeep, nothing that'll slow him down. "Alto, thank you, sir." Alto's name was just mentioned. He's never seen a shop selling accessories like this. Lily snaps that Minton's the only place around here, so they had to travel a bit today. The truth slams into Alto. The entire shopping trip was orchestrated down to the last detail. Lily beams, tells Alto it suits him and looks cool, confirming she planned it all along. He mumbles a painfully awkward thanks. Lily leans in with a sly grin and teases Alto. "Does it thrill you when people gush over your outfit?" Alto's grin spreads as he nods, admitting, "Yeah, it feels pretty good." Half a year after the aptitude ceremony, the story leaps forward. Alto now crouches in the dank, shadowed depths of a low-class dungeon. He jumped on a request to exterminate poisonous rabbits, stepping into a clearing buzzing with low-level adventurers all fighting the same threat. Poison rabbits devour crops and ruin harvests if ignored, so the guild throws the job to low-ranking adventurers. They give next to no experience, so nobody wants the quest. Alto unleashes a blazing fireball to take one down, treating it like perfect training and a quick way to pocket some extra cash. Alto's starting to think it's time to take a break. This place only spits out poison rabbits now. He slays his 20th foe, the poison stone tumbling free this time without a fight. He snatches a spare moment and pulls up his stats. A game-like status screen erupts into view, plastered with flashing stats and numbers that declare ordinary magic. Once it crosses a certain level, unlocks a stronger tier of spells, and his physical enhancement stats are laid bare on the display. Alto's pulse spikes. Maybe it's a one-of-a-kind skill after all, and since he's come this far, he steels himself and charges straight through to level 1. A notification erupts on his screen. "Conditional activation available." Alto's eyes snap open as he realizes his auto magic has finally cracked level 3. 6 relentless months of his automatic magic humming around the clock finally paid off. Alto's pulse spikes. If he rigs those conditional branches, will the system judge the situation and unleash the skill on its own? He stares at the screen's condition. If a poison rabbit appears, then fireball end if. Doubt flares, so he bolts off to hunt a poison rabbit and test whether it really triggers a fireball. He scours the area. Suddenly, a fireball flares to life all by itself. A blazing fireball homes in and slams into the poison rabbit before Alto can even spot it. He gaped. He hadn't even seen the poison rabbit, and it had already taken it down on its own without him lifting a finger. Realization slams into Alto. This system's potential is insane. Preset the conditions and it will unleash magic all on its own, bypassing his will entirely. Until now, Alto had to trigger his skills by hand, firing them non-stop. When he trailed adventurers as a porter, he only pumped out buffs and never actually stepped into the fight. He could program it to hurl a fireball the instant a poison rabbit appeared, and have it hunt them for him even while he slept, pure automatic magic. And Alto recoils at how utterly unfitting this ability is for someone like him. Rage burns in his chest as he vows to keep cutting them down. Later, Alto storms into a brand new location. This is the first time he set foot in a weapons shop that sells arms straight to buyers, and it isn't his. Guilds split into two camps. One snatches up quests and settles them in-house, the exact kind Alto works for. This guild scours the realm for requests, doles missions out to other adventurers and parties, and scoops up a few gigs on the side. Exactly the kind of outfit Alto snagged a job from this time. Alto strides up to the counter, locks eyes with the receptionist, and says, "I'd like to exchange them, please." The female guild receptionist gapes at the mountain of poison rabbit materials, incredulous. "This many? You've been hoarding them instead of trading them all this time." Alto brags he actually picked them just today and has become frighteningly efficient at exterminating them. And the receptionist, wide-eyed, admits she's never heard of anyone exterminating this many in a single day. Alto shrugs, drops that he nabbed herbs on a side quest, and asks her to look after those too. Alto left his appraisal magic running on auto, so his system now pings him about every plant, a numbflower to his right, anticoagulant grass over there. And the moment he told it to flag any herb, everything went ridiculously efficient. The receptionist gaped, disbelief crackling as she demanded, "You gathered herbs today too, and this many at the same time." She leans in, studies the collection, and her breath stops. It's mere grass. Listen, unless someone slams a high-level appraisal spell on it, you'd have to appraise it 10 times just to sniff out this herb. And there's no way an adventurer at Alto's level could ever find it. The receptionist says so herself. Alto shoots out a guess. Maybe it was accidentally shuffled into the rest of the materials. The receptionist shrugs, dismissing it as a mere coincidence. 1 hour later, the receptionist slams the payment into Alto's hands, and an onlooker gasps that it's the guild's several days' earnings, made in a single day. The receptionist leans in, eyes sharp, urging Alto to quit the guild and turn gathering into his main job. Alto shakes his head. "The gathering's a blast," he says, "but my sights are locked on something else, so I'll sit this one out." Deep underground, inside a low-class dungeon, an adventurer leader thundered, "Move out, everyone." The automatic magic's conditional branching lets them blitz through gathering quests, finishing far faster and with surgical precision. The porter's work at the guild keeps the whole operation humming, and Alto kicks off his ritual, flaring his magic skill buff, as he and the others steel themselves for the dungeon run. Inside the dungeon, Alto's eyes blaze as he discovers that even as a mere porter, clearing dungeons still grants him experience. The system bellows that enhancement buffs linger after casting, so chaining multiple magic circuits to stack them on allies during quests gobbles up far more EXP than casting them on himself. Alto knows you can grind XP alone, but team up and the gains explode. Party XP efficiency is off the charts. One of the adventurers roars, ripping the silence, "Lizardman ahead." The adventurer rockets forward and hurls a sapphire lance at the lizardman, the weapon slamming home with devastating force. A relentless storm of strikes battered the creature as the party moved in deadly, synchronized rhythm. A voice thundered, hailing the successful takedown. Another adventurer roars, driving a killing blow into yet another enemy. One of them smirks and declares the attack hit the mark, while another laughs that Alto's in an unexpectedly good mood today. The mood snaps. Someone barks at Alto to quit dawdling and race to clean up this mess. They sneer that they're the ones kind enough to hire useless trash like him, and another voice barks that he's here to haul it away and scrub the mess clean. After the dungeon run, one adventurer beams that he's been feeling lighter lately. Another jumps in, crowing that the whole quest was a total breeze too. A guildmate slumped into a chair, relief washing over them as they grinned. "Back at the guild, I can finally relax." The leader dismisses everyone for the day, slamming the moment shut with a crisp, "Good work." He spins to Alto, spits errand boy, and demands, "Do you know what to do?" Alto meets him and snaps, "I do." The adventurer barks at him, "Get everything sorted by tomorrow, their stuff and all the other adventurers' items, same as always." The adventurers start heading off when one pipes up, "Let's get a drink." But a voice cuts in. Alto must scrutinize every magic stone. Unless he pores over the appraisal results, he can't tell which monster each came from. Alto snaps, "I already know that." He squares his shoulders, sizes up what they've brought in today, and attacks the work. Alto stares down a towering mountain of armor, weapons, and trinkets, every piece hauled in by today's adventurers. A tidal wave of tasks crashes down. Urutre Division, 4th Dance Shinobi Art, Osashin Nimia UI Fierce Night, Weaving 40-60-103 Production, 4th Misc. Medical, off of 110 Rise to the West Platform, Rise to the South Platform, and literally dozens more items choking the inventory. A bolt of realization hits Alto. He's got automatic magic after all. Alto flips the switch on the conditional branching system he drilled for 6 months, and the sorter roars to life. Hard ore rockets north, magic solution stones veer east, flame demon ore is shoved south, while miscellaneous items queue for one-by-one appraisal before heading west. The fewer that hit the west, the better, so he splits the flow by appraisal results, sets it to loop, and finishes the individual appraisals. He gapes at the towering mountain of gear and materials left by every adventurer who worked today. Without his automatic magic system, sorting it would devour the whole day. Now he can only stand there, breath caught, as the sorting races toward its finish. While he waits, Alto turns every spare second into a razor-sharp study blitz, devouring knowledge like a man on a mission. Holed up in his obsessively organized warehouse workspace, surrounded by shelves, barrels, and neatly sorted materials, Alto stares down his readout, Magic Circuit 1, Automatic Magic LV. 10 at 11,001 00000 XP, Appraisal Magic LV. 9 at 32,509 000 XP. Then his mind snaps to the promise he made Lily, and he vows he will never give. For 2.5 years straight, Alto hones his skills every day while hauling for the Adventurers Guild, throwing himself into relentless dungeon raids and back-breaking porter shifts to rack up experience points. In a flash, the party he's in rockets up the ranks and snatches the guild's ace title. One adventurer erupts in a whoop of triumph. Alto realizes that now he can reach higher dungeons, so he dives headfirst into grinding experience points. But a dangerous downside waits. An adventurer barked at Alto to have everything sorted by tomorrow, and Alto shrugged, slapping on his familiar no-skill designation. The adventurers stride away, and one of them snaps at him to hurry up. Even after the party climbs the ranks, they still treat Alto exactly the same, so he devours magic and dungeon lore every day, and brags that no one in the guild knows more than he does. Adventurers worship raw strength. Alto stands alone in the hallway, rage coiling in his chest because nobody ever listens to him. Then Alto stares down the towering mountain of work ahead and slams warehouse organization into motion. Today's a gauntlet of tasks, the schedule stacked from dawn to dusk. A job that should have needed 10 people, but years of brutal XP grinding have turned him into a one-man squad. Many of his skills now sit at about the level of middling adventurers. 30 minutes later, a system alert exploded across Alto's screen. His auto magic had just leveled up. For 2.5 relentless years, he triggered that skill every single day, and when it hit level 10, it exploded, unlocking conditional branching. His auto magic finally slammed into level 20, the meter flashing 0.10000 XP toward the next level. Alto's HUD exploded with a system notification. A new multi-skill function lets him type multi plus a number, the skill's name, then end multi. Repeat up to 16 times, and now that he's hit level 20, he can unleash them all simultaneously. Alto stares at the explanation, chest tight. Until now, he'd never been able to trigger multiple skills at the exact same instant, and he scrambles to grasp what true simultaneous activation actually means. The system erupts, level 20 reached, simultaneous activation unlocked. And Alto's jaw drops as he realizes he can now stack and unleash multiple attack spells at once. Alto snaps into action and rockets to the training ground behind the guild to test it. He plants himself in the open and triggers a simultaneous activation, sending every system roaring to life at once. For now, he slams it to 16 simultaneous activations. The system screams multi-16 fireball and mult across the display. A massive explosion ripped through the training ground, gouging a colossal blast crater into the earth. Smoke thins and Alto's eyes snap wide as devastation lies bare before him. The blast gouged a crater big enough to swallow a person, and Alto stood stunned. His once pathetic attack magic, amplified 16-fold, now rivals the power of a high-level adventurer. Layer an enhancement spell on top and the power explodes. Years of running that skill non-stop, 24 hours a day, have swollen his mana past the average, so this technique pays off in spades. His eyes snapped to the system interface as the multi-16 fireball configuration blazed across the display. He steels himself, fingers twitching, ready to unleash the simultaneous activation once more. Colossal blasts rip the training ground apart as Alto pushes his newfound power to the breaking point. The blasts rip the earth open, carving colossal craters and hurling shards of rock and rubble in every direction. This annihilation dwarfs anything a mere basic spell could ever unleash. Alto's eyes lock onto the devastation, every muscle humming with razor-sharp focus. The power is insane. It scorches and rends the air like a dragon's breath unleashed. Electric glee surges through him as the truth lands. This power could launch him into the life of an adventurer, or he could even clinch a spot at the Knight Academy. The chance to finally prove himself sits right within his grasp. The next day, Alto's adventure party reconvenes as Irascible, blonde, spiky-haired, strides forward, faces the group, and thanks everyone for gathering. He bursts out that the guild master personally summoned him this morning. In the last 2 years, their guild has pulled off feat after feat and blown up in size like never before. Alto freezes, eyes locked on the leader's uncharacteristic grin. This usually dour man is suddenly overflowing with gratitude, and Alto can't stop wondering what's gotten into him. Irascible shoved Alto into the hot seat, snarling what the guild should do in times like these, and forcing an answer out of the so-called no skill. Alto, throat tight, throws out a tentative pitch to lift the members' morale with rewards and little perks. Irascible lets out a long, exasperated sigh. Another party member pipes up, demanding they recruit stronger allies, and someone else instantly cuts them off, scoffing that hopeful thinking is exactly why Alto's still stuck as a mere supporter. Irascible flashes a grin and declares the guildmaster's command. Now is the time to stay sharp. The guild vows to make waves that shake the whole organization. Tiny creatures mutter they're too weak, and as the guild swells, incompetence creeps in, but this guild crushes incompetence without mercy. Without warning, Irascible roars the announcement. By the captain's command, one member from every squad will be picked and forced to leave both their party and the guild, no exceptions. A full restructuring starts now. The party floods the guild hall as Alto reels, his mind racing to digest the words he just heard. Irascible storms forward, the rest of the party hot on his heels. He lands the decisive strike. Alto is fired as of today. The words slammed into Alto like a fist to the chest. Irascible roared that casting out the useless was the guild master's command and slammed into Alto, demanding, "Did you really think you could stay in an S-rank party with no skills?" Alto snaps back, admitting he might lack skill, but he insists his magic level hasn't improved at all lately. Irascible cuts him off with a sharp, "Shut up." And Alto snaps back that he's been working as an adventurer for 3 years, yet he's still only at beginner level. Alto admits he's low tier, but he still storms in when it counts and delivers. Irascible slams Alto's own words back at him, sneering, "Didn't you just say that yourself?" Didn't Alto slam him with a reminder that they needed to keep morale sky-high if the guild was going to grow? Irascible explodes, spewing garbage. Alto drags down everyone else's morale, then thunders for him to get out right now. Alto explodes out of the guild building, sprinting away as Irascible watches from the entrance. Then a hooded party member cuts through the silence and speaks up. Alto wasn't just theirs. He handled chores for other parties too. His comrades poured buffs over everyone and asked, "Can we really let him go?" Irascible scoffs, brushing off the concern and demanding what nonsense they're spouting, and the hooded figure sneers that chores are for anyone. There's no reason to keep an unskilled hanger-on around. A teammate bursts out that hiring humans with elite magic aptitude would supercharge their buffs, and Irascible snaps at Alto, roaring, "Are you saying someone with no skills belongs in your S-rank party?" Alto's voice stammers as he forces out a raw, trembling apology. Irascible loomed before the entire group and thundered that this guild had no use for the weak, commanding them to remember it well. Later, Alto crumpled onto the narrow bed in his cramped room, eyes pinned to the ceiling. He rakes his hand through his hair, frustration and defeat crashing into him. Lily's pendant clung to his chest. Alto's memory snaps back to Lily pressing the pendant into his hand, her eyes burning as she made him swear he'd never forget their promise. She snaps, "Look at the letter, remember every word." A casual mention of becoming a knight rips Alto from his trance. He snaps back, furious at himself. Is this the time to daydream? Do I have time to mope? Alto ignites from yesterday's skill activation, a devastating attack spell surging through him. He snaps into action with no time to hesitate and rockets forward to become a solo adventurer. He barrels down the guild stairs as a knot of adventurers argue there'd be almost no parties willing to take someone whose only experience is as a porter, and that looking for work would be pointless. Someone yells, "Porter." but Alto ignores them and rushes on. Morning still young, Alto bolts into action and storms up to the guild receptionist to take a quest right away, and begs to be thrown into an E-rank subjugation job. The receptionist leans forward, eyes sharp, and fires. "What brings you here today?" Alto admits he's only ever taken F-rank requests so far, just mowing down weak monsters he could beat without using a single skill. Lily slams a paper into his hands, grin blazing, proof he's challenging the E-rank this time. Then someone throws out one specific quest. Lily points at the Black Labyrinth, a dungeon that just sprang up on the town's outskirts, and says the quest is B-ranked. The threats run from F up to B, and the first floor teams only with E-rank monsters. He plunges deeper underground, and the threats spike. D, then C, then B-ranked floors loom, so he has to brace himself. Alto shot her a grateful smile, and later stood at the dungeon's yawning mouth, excitement surging. His first solo quest, eager to prove he could hold his own right now. Back at the guild counter, Lily shoved the order sheet, a bag for dropped items, and his pay into Alto's hands. Memories of the S-rank party slammed into him, and the simultaneous activation skill he'd gained felt perfect for this quest. It should let him cut down D-rank monsters. So he resolved to play it smart, pushing forward or pulling back depending on how the fight swung. Alto skids to a stop at the Black Labyrinth's dungeon entrance, a gaping maw hewn from the cliff face, darkness hungrily waiting inside. He gapes at a maze-like dungeon, where the map offers only vague scribbles and monsters crowd every corridor. Elite parties bulldoze into the dungeon, laser-focused on the boss. Endless trash mobs would sap their stamina long before the final clash. They whittle the weak mobs down so the elite parties sprint to the boss. The grim cleanup falls to guys like him. Alto bursts inside and is hit by the scale. The place is cavernous, every passageway yawning wide like a canyon. He fires off 16 casts of physical enhancement, piling buff on buff until his muscles hum like coiled thunder. Traps litter the dungeon, but his conditional branching skill relentlessly scans and blasts warnings at him, letting him relax, confident he won't accidentally trigger any. A goblin explodes into view up ahead, and he brands it an E-rank monster, prime practice prey for rookies to hone their skills. He tenses, channels raw power, and slams his multicast spell into life. 16 blazing fireballs erupt from his hands. Alto triggers a simultaneous activation and unleashes all 16 fireballs in a single, blazing barrage. The combined attack erupts into a colossal explosion that rips through the corridor, swallowing the dungeon passageway in roaring flames and utter ruin. When the smoke finally parts, Alto stares at the ruin he carved and feels the crushing weight of what he's done. His grin snaps off. Regret hits like a punch as he realizes he might have overdone it a bit. Irascido exploded, shouting that it wasn't a failure. He just hadn't finished before the time limit, for certain reasons. Lily stays ice calm and lays it bare. Even at its deepest core, the Black Labyrinth is just beer ink and nowhere near as massive as it looks. Irascido explodes, defensive and furious, snarling at her. "Are you calling us weak?" Irascido keeps swearing they'll finish the dungeon tomorrow, and orders every other party to stay away. Then as Alto barrels toward the guild counter, Irascido's gaze snaps onto him. He immediately rips into him, spitting "useless bastard" and sneering. Why would Lily take someone like Alto on a quest alone? The guild receptionist erupts into a warm welcome, beaming at Alto as she urgently beckons him forward. When she rips open his request form, and her eyes lock onto it, he plunged into the Black Labyrinth to subjugate an E-rank monster, and Irascido laughed, sneering that it was only fitting for someone useless. The receptionist snaps, "Did you manage to take down the monsters?" And Alto answers, grin razor-sharp, "I did, they're finished." A voice snaps, "It's not just the first floor." And Lily and the receptionist freeze, eyes wide with shock. Then Alto grins and drops the bomb. He even beat the boss. Gasps tear through the guild as every member freezes, jaws dropping in stunned disbelief. Someone barks, "No way useless Alto beat a B rank." As the dark-haired adventurer from Alto's party snatches the magic stone, studies it, and snaps. It's unmistakably from a minotaur, while Lily goes slack-jawed, stunned that an F rank actually pulled this off. Irascido yanks Alto forward and growls, "What kind of underhanded trick did you use?" Alto roars that he hasn't done a single dishonest thing. Irascido snarled, branding him a liar and dismissing him as an incompetent who can't do a thing. Lily lunges between them, yelling for them to stop, and security staff crash in. They tell Irascido bluntly he's going to be asked to leave, and he explodes, roaring that he has to expose Alto's wrongdoing. They haul Irascido out as he insists his strength shot. He'd just been fighting, So a guard snaps they'll hear his complaints outside. Back at the counter, Alto thanks Lily with a relieved grin, and she lights up, congratulating him again for taking down the boss. He declares that, now that he's met the required conditions, the guild will issue him a D-rank license. Alto rakes his eyes across his new D-rank license, memorizing every line. The realization hit him like a jolt. He could tackle B-rank jobs right off the bat. He swelled with quiet certainty that his power rivaled an A-rank. Then Lily's voice sliced in from behind. Flagging the regulations that stand in the way, she just grinned, sure he'll clear them soon. Later, Alto drops into a chair across from Lily and thanks her from the heart. Then a bolt of realization slams into him. He toppled that boss with his own steady, grinding strength, and for the first time someone truly acknowledged his skill, so he finally feels himself edging toward becoming a real knight. Out in a forest clearing, Alto's. Out there, he drilled his projectile control, firing round after round to sharpen his aim. One of his attacks rockets through the trees, ripping branches aside, then sails wide and misses its mark entirely. Alto winces, he missed again, and the results glare back. From about the seventh projectile, his control utterly collapses. Alto tears his performance apart, dissecting every move. Yesterday's solo quest laid bare a flood of flaws, and he must pinpoint each challenge and weak spot to grow more efficiently. He tore through his tactics and realized that when enemies hit him from every angle, he could trigger everything at once, split his items, and unleash a storm of synchronized attacks for a brutal power spike. Diagrams burned into his mind screamed the truth. Every time he unleashed multiple skills at once, their trajectories spun beyond his control. After pushing himself to the brink, he can still only handle 16 projectiles total, and only about 5 or 6 trajectories bend to his will. Alto smirks and decides that's good enough for now. He snatches a look at the clock and his pulse spikes. It's right when the Quest Introduction Guild opens. Alto bursts through the doors of the Quest Introduction Guild, eyes blazing with purpose. Inside, the staff member slams a hand on the counter and declares 3 solo beer ink quests are available right now. Alto throws his name in to tackle the mine dungeon, already cleared once but still crawling with leftover monsters. This is a full-on extermination quest. The blonde guild receptionist flips through his request, her eyes widening at how vast the job is, then slaps a 2-day extermination permit into his hand. He's free to claim any spoils of war. Alto snaps a grateful salute. Thanks, sir. Leaving the guild behind, Alto's vowed to plunge into racing. Until now, every item auto magic snatched had to be split among the whole party. But now that he can pulverize that B-rank boss solo, he can claim every last item. Lily hurls a wave from the guild entrance and cries, "Good luck, may fortune favor you," as Alto flashes a grin and announces, "I'm off." 1 hour later, Alto surges up to the Achilles mine, the entrance gaping before him. A massive cave carved into a hillside tangled in thick vegetation. Alto plunges into the dark tunnel, a faint magical glow clinging to his body as a chill sharper than he expected slices the air. He grins, glad he brought his jacket. Deep in the Achilles mine, Alto sharpens his focus. A place like this wouldn't be hauling bulky cargo, so he concludes they're after magic stones, rare treasures found deep underground. A jolt rips through Alto. He remembers a tattered book he'd once read that described a rare type of magic stone. As he plunges deeper into the bone-chilling tunnel, a massive troll explodes into the passage, its grotesque face swallowing the tunnel. B-rank monsters with almost no brains, trolls boast off-the-charts endurance and crushing power. Ordinary adventurers don't stand a chance, and their feral aggression makes them lethal. Alto snaps into action, triggers Fireball X8 and flings 8 roaring fireballs. He rains a merciless barrage down on the troll, spell bolts ripping through the air, and he rocketed into the creature, the impact detonating into a thunderous blast. The troll eats the full brunt of the simultaneous assault as each strike explodes, throwing flash after flash across the dark mine tunnel. Alto seals the kill with ease, rips the troll stone from the fallen monster, and a system chime pings. He's just discovered a magic gemstone. Alto's eyes rake the area as he hunted for it. After a heartbeat of searching, his eyes snag on a flash, something gleaming in a hollow carved into the mine wall. Alto snatched the glowing gemstone, hunched over the rare, mono-shining stone as his mind raced over what it might fetch. He sorts the pieces himself, but an executive signs the payouts, so the true value stays out of his hands. Then another system notification explodes onto the screen, roaring about the Dragon Eye stone he's just discovered. Alto barrels deeper into the dungeon as notifications explode around him. Every step triggers another ping, and he can't stop grinning. This B-rank dungeon is way more fun than he'd expected. Later, Alto storms back into the guild that hands out quests. The female receptionist greets him, stunned he's back so soon, jabs at his permit. It was only for 2 days did something happen. Alto beams that he wanted to cash out today. He hauled in way more than he'd expected. Lily goes pale when he offers to split it, blurting, "Half of your entire haul." And she forces a smile, insisting she's glad things are going well for him. Lily rips through Alto's haul and utterly loses it as her frantic fingers snag a magic chimmer stone and a dragon stone. She's shaking, barely holding herself together because every single item is insanely valuable. The bag spills rare gemstones everywhere. Lily gapes at Alto, disbelief burning in her eyes as she snaps, "Did you get all of these by yourself?" Alto shrugs, grinning like it's nothing, and casually declares, "I've always been great at scouting." Lily's dead sure Alto needs to join a gathering guild now. She'll personally size up every last member before she signs him up. Appraisal complete, Lily reveals the result to Alto, 10 gleaming gold coins. His jaw dropped as he stared at the staggering sum he'd pulled in from a single dungeon run. Lily gapes at Alto's haul. She can hardly believe anyone pulled this much from a B-rank dungeon. The wall map marks shadow monsters, beasts so lethal they usually demand a 10-person team to even take on. Meanwhile, Alto's gaze locks on the 10 glinting gold coins as his mind scrambles to take in their worth. Lily snaps, "How strong are you really?" And Alto admits he was stunned by the results. Outside, Alto and Lily stare at his future. He admits the Night Academy's entrance fee is a wall between him and his dream, and Lily snaps that countless talented people are forced to give up because they can't afford the tuition. Alto scoffs that food in his belly is enough, and windows are a waste. He never wanted more than the bare essentials or to earn big, but now everything's different. The warehouse supervisor shakes his head. No money to help with Alto's tuition, and Alto freezes, heart sinking as his mind snaps to his backup plan. Grind collection quests and slowly scrape the fees together. Noble blood floods the Night Academy. About 80% of students hail from aristocratic families, so lone outsiders like Alto are glaring exceptions. With his new dungeon haul, Alto's eyes ignite. He realizes he can amass the tuition money in no time. The next day, out at Ashell Mine, dawn slammed down and the whole site jolted to life. Alto roars back, razor-sharp and primed for another run. He crams his backpack to the brim, hoists it onto his shoulders, and heads back for now. Pushing through the mine, Alto's eyes lock onto his. His EXP gain exploded severalfold, and he's left buzzing, torn over which quest to storm into starting tomorrow. Out of nowhere, a bone-rattling roar ripped through the mine, slamming into the walls and racing down every tunnel. Someone bellows, "Go check it out." Alto snaps upright, heart-pounding, shouting, "What was that?" A low voice snarls, "That was no ordinary scream." Then Alto explodes into a sprint, charging straight for the source of the noise. Alto hurtles through the mine, shouting he's sure the sound came from right here. Then he spots it, a colossal dragon sprawled across the passage, sealing off their only way forward. Alto's gaze snaps to a figure pinned beneath the dragon. Horror spikes as he knows their moments from being crushed. He slams the physical buff into play. Time 16 erupts with no hesitation. He rockets forward and slams into the dragon, his strength exploding into a bone-crushing blow. A blood-curdling scream rips from the creature as the strike slams home, and Alto hurls himself at the dragon with every scrap of strength. When a voice tore through his mind, "Why the hell is there a dragon in a place like this?" A colossal beast owns the passage, its armored scales packing the tunnel from wall to wall as Alto launches another furious assault. A ribbon-tied blonde drops to her knees beside the injured man, tears carving tracks down her face as she chokes out, "Are you alive?" Alto appears and urgently asks if they're okay. The woman can only stammer, shaken to her core by the chaos unfolding. Alto drops to his knees beside the motionless man, checks him over and breathes, "Mike." He shoves a frantic plea at the woman. If she can escape with Mike, she has to go now. A voice screams, "Mike." In alarm, Alto bellows he'll try to take on the dragon. Alto rockets forward, baiting the dragon away from the two civilians. Someone screams, "Get it off them." Alto surged at the creature, taunting it at the top of his lungs, mocking it as a massive oaf and roaring that he was the dragon's opponent now. But the dragon coils, gathering raw power as it readies a devastating strike. Alto's eyes snap to the scent, dragon breath. Panic etches across his face as he realizes they're still too far from safety. The dragon roars and hurls a cataclysmic blast, a thunderous explosion of energy that erupts and engulfs the entire mine passage. The dragon's breath smashed into the mine with earth-shattering force. Alto warns it hits like a freight train, but the real threat is the blistering heat wave that spreads on contact, and the blast's destructive energy radiates outward, hurling people and debris in every direction. A cold realization hits like a punch. At this pace, the people who came before will be wiped out. Alto ignites his physical buff again. The timer resets to 16. He layers his enhancement as he launches, catapulting himself forward. It tore through the air with blistering speed. The dragon's counterattack slams Alto into the rock. He roars for it to chase him, baiting its fury. Then its breath detonates through the mine tunnel, obliterating the shaft. Alto's eyes flare. Staying aloft could actually scatter the heat wave. It only scorches him in the air, and if that blast fries everyone on the ground, the casualty count would explode. Hoisted into the air, way better than letting it crawl across the ground and reach everyone else. Alto erupts into a savage counterattack. He fires ice needles 16 times in a relentless, non-stop barrage. Suddenly, a colossal volley of ice shards hurtled straight for the dragon, turning the air into a violent hail of frozen spears. Ice needles slam into the dragon's blazing breath, detonating into a massive explosion. Down below, someone realizes an explosion just detonated, and the blonde woman screams an urgent alarm the instant the impact hits. The collision detonates a brutal shockwave, ripping jagged ice spires outward in a widening circle. Alto roared in triumph, declaring he'd actually nullified the dragon's breath attack. He roars at the dragon, daring him to take his next move and unleashes 16 ice walls back-to-back. Colossal walls of ice erupt between him and the dragon, slamming into place as a shield, while the beast remains shrouded in smoke and debris. Someone's eyes snap to a towering wall of ice that just ripped into existence. Crouching over the unconscious Mike, the blonde's suspicion spikes. Could this magic be his? Then realization slams into her. The dragon's breath no longer ripples with heat. A jagged wall of ice towers in the mine, a frozen rampart shielding them from the dragon's position. Alto's blood ran cold as he absorbed the strange sight. A dragon loitering in these borderlands was utterly out of place. The dragons lay crumpled, battered by Alto's strikes, crusted in jagged ice and surrounded by shattered debris, and someone nearby gasped that they'd somehow managed to win the fight. Alto stood in the blasted mine, heart hammering as he swallowed the wreckage, a dragon showing up just an hour from town, unheard of. He freezes. S-rank monsters are a near myth, even when they show up as dungeon bosses. Victory came by a hair. He only toppled it because he could unleash ice and water magic. Recognition slams into him. Those are the people from earlier. He whips around and bolts to check on them. Alto explodes forward and finds the male guard and a blonde woman crouched over Mike, urgently tending to him. He's crumpled and out cold on the ground. A guard rushes over and asks if Alto's okay as the blonde woman cries out to him. Alto snatches a potion from his pack, declares, "I've got one ready, ailments are my biggest fear as a solo adventurer," and thrusts it into their hand. Mike chokes out an apology, admitting the paralysis is still sabotaging him. Relief exploded through the group the second they were pulled to safety. The blonde woman beamed warmly at. She showered Alto with frantic thanks, admitting she'd briefly had no idea what was going to happen. Alto flushes, rubbing the back of his neck and stammering as her gratitude catches him off guard. The guard slumps, hiding his face and spilling frantic apologies for failing his post. The blonde snaps head up. She's not having it, but he keeps protesting. She snarled that nobody could have foreseen a dragon showing up in a place like this, let alone being stabbed in the back by one of their own. She pins her gaze on Alto in the distance, relief surging. He'd been kind enough to save them. The blonde woman whirls to Alto, crowns him her savior, and pours out a thunderous, heartfelt thanks for saving their lives. Alto freezes, then fumbles, awkward and jittery, his nerves blazing through every move. He offers his name, Alto, plain and simple. She replies, Charlotte, and says she hopes they'll become well acquainted. Alto is utterly distracted, every elegant motion stealing his attention as he thinks she's a living doll. Charlotte barrels forward, promising she'll thank him properly later and firing off. "Which guild are you with?" But before Alto can even answer, she blurts an apology and says they have to hurry back to town now. Charlotte snaps, demanding the name of the guild he usually uses. Alto scoffs and insists she doesn't need to thank him. He's just a lowly freelance adventurer. He drops the bomb. It's a quest referral guild called the White Lancers. The male guard snaps, "I know this place, get out now." The group braces for takeoff. The guard mutters an apologetic excuse and slips away. Charlotte locks eyes with Alto, swears she'll pay him back, and lights up with that warm, grateful smile. Alto stands rooted as they vanish into the crowd, his head spinning. What the hell was that all about? A few days later, the White Lancers Guild thrummed with restless energy. The warehouse supervisor explodes forward, shoving Alto hard and bellowing, "Move it," sending him sprawling as he nearly loses his footing. The supervisor explodes, pointing fingers and spewing blame, demanding to know whose fault it is that he's stuck organizing the warehouse. Claiming all the work Alto used to do crashed down on them the moment he left because of the labor shortage. The supervisor keeps bellowing that the mere sight of Alto makes his blood boil. Back at the White Lancers Guild, Irascido strides up and asks for the toughest quest they've got right now, and the guild staff tosses out one: clear the B-rank dungeon. Irascido cuts it off on the spot, snapping that it's not good enough and demanding a major achievement, right now. He slams the question, are any A-rank quests available? Irascido's party is on a desperate slide, failing quest after quest for days as the guild masters' trust in them craters. The guild staff tell him there are no A-rank quests right now, and Irascido's patience snaps. He spits they're useless and threatens to find work elsewhere. Suddenly, a spectacled royal official in crisp formalwear storms into the guild, flanked by a retinue. Someone sneers that he's got the gall to stand there after those recent failures, while the guild receptionist beams and beckons them inside. The official storms forward and proclaims he's come to petition a certain man for a mission. Alto's gaze locks onto the crest stamped on the man's chest, and the realization hits: he's a royal official. The official booms that this is a nomination request. He's here to hurl a brutal, high-stakes quest at the nominee to test if they're truly fit for the exam. Shock knocks the wind from Alto. He freezes in utter disbelief, while Irascido's eyes explode wide in complete surprise. The official presses on, declaring the Knight Selection exam is reserved for Royal Knight Academy students. Outsiders only get a shot in rare cases if the royal court vouches for them. The court catapults brutal, high-difficulty quests at anyone with potential to prove their worth. Alto had only ever heard whispers about them and never believed they were real, and jealousy burned through him at the opportunity. Then the official strides in and booms, "I am Leto." Irascido erupts with excitement, convinced his exploits have finally reached the royal court. This is his once-in-a-lifetime shot to reclaim his honor. Lily and Irascido snap to attention, eyes wide, muscles coiled, breath held as they waited to hear who'd been nominated. Leto locks onto Alto and grins. "So you're Alto, what a coincidence. You look exactly like I was told, no doubt about it." Alto blinked and stammered, bafflement flooding every word. Irascido explodes, roaring at Leto to wait. He refuses to accept this guy as Alto and snaps. What about him? He bellows that Alto's a talentless, incompetent loser, slams a question at Leto. Do you know the name Oroso? And Irascido snarls that Oroso is said to be the man closest to becoming a royal knight right now. Leto fires back flat. I've never heard of Oroso. And the words strike Irascido like a hammer. He crumbles, utterly devastated. Leto declares the princess wants Alto to become a knight and asks if he'll accept. Alto sputters. You mean the princess herself? Leto confirms and presses again. Will you accept? Alto's eyes flare as he fires the question. If I finish that quest, can I join the Knight Selection exam? Leto confirms it's brutally tough, but if Alto pulls it off, he'll earn the right to challenge the Royal Guard Selection exam side by side with the Knight Academy's third years. Irascido freezes, eyes wide in complete shock, as Lily suddenly shoots her hand up and, voice cracking, begs Leto to let her take the quest. Chaos explodes as a chorus of objections surges, one voice snarling there's been a mistake and declaring Alto a certified no-skill who could never be fit to become a knight. Irascido hurls one final desperate gambit, swearing on his iron resolve and the scars of leading an S-rank party that he alone must be chosen. Leto's voice cut like ice as he demanded, Irascido, are you prepared to face the consequences of objecting to the princess's words? Leto's voice stayed ice cold as he unspooled the situation with calm, surgical precision. The court naming a complete unknown, unprecedented, the princess already smelled the coming opposition, so to stop it, they'll make Lord Alto prove his strength in a public exam or duel before an audience. Someone notes, conversely, if their power is proven in that duel, they could seize a recommendation for the selection exam. Alto smirked, thinking this tactic would suffocate objections. Once the results landed, most people would be convinced. Leto leans in and asks if the arrangement suits Lord Alto, and Alto snaps back with a confident nod. Sounds pretty solid to me. Irascido pounced on the chance, roaring his gratitude for the whole setup and declaring, I, Iraso, will unleash every ounce of myself in this duel. Then Leto bellowed that tomorrow the two of them would face off in a duel at the Royal Palace Arena. Alto's mind detonates into overdrive as the world whips by. He's barely keeping up, but he knows this is his shot. No matter the conditions, he's hellbent on clearing them. Irasa whoops her agreement, and Leto snaps that the princess will be there too, so they absolutely can't afford to be late. Meanwhile, at the Night Order headquarters, security preparations kicked into overdrive. The public duel, decided at the last second, explodes into action. A female knight slams down orders before the assembled officers. The knight selection exam seizes the public's full attention, and rumors of an unknown adventurer already race through every corner of the capital. Officials huddled, voices sharp as they debated security risks, warning that each extra attendee made it likelier a dangerous person could slip into the crowd. The braided-haired knight slams her gauntlet and roars that they must plan for every possible scenario and mold every detail into absolute perfection. The briefing presses on as a voice snaps orders to the squad leaders. Seal your positions and bring any questions by day's end. This is a vital mission. You must guarantee the safety of the citizens and the princess at the same time. A male knight storms before the assembled forces, roars that it's an emergency, demands everyone give their all, then dismisses them to their duties. The knights snapped to attention and barked a crisp, disciplined acknowledgement. Meanwhile, a dossier on Alto sits under merciless scrutiny as reviewers comb every line for hidden secrets. The princess strode down the palace hallway, each footfall ringing through the corridor. The princess pores over Alto's dossier, each listed feat knocking her breathless. She thinks to herself, Alto really is amazing. The realization crashes over her like a cold wave, crushing her with doubt. She'd thought she'd already reached the starting line, but at this level she can't take down an A-rank monster alone. Her gaze locked on the document as determination hardened into steel. She swore she'd grow far stronger, too, and stand at his side. The Royal Palace Arena roared to life, every section jammed with spectators, the crowd erupting into a thunder of electric anticipation. The announcer seizes the mic, locks eyes with the crowd, and booms, "Thanks for waiting, everyone." He bellows that the main event has arrived and summons the Knights selection exam nominees and their opponents into the spotlight. The announcement roars on as the announcer dives into the profile of the recommended participant, Alto. The waiting room crackled as Alto sat rigid on a bench and Leto stood inches away, the air thick with barely contained tension. Leto grins, eyes blazing, and tells Alto he can't wait to see him unleash his true strength today. Alto snaps back, nerves etched across his face as every tremor and swallowed breath screams panic. Alto's mind sprints as pressure snowballs, and he feels his whole life teetering on the edge of this duel's outcome. He steels himself. This isn't a regular fight, it's his shot to unleash the results of his training, and tension ratchets up as Alto's nerves flare. Determination hardens into steel in his veins. He knows he absolutely cannot lose. On the arena stairs, Irascileto corners Alto and sneers. "I thought you'd crumble and run, but you actually showed up fine. You've got a shred of courage." The guildmaster looms nearby, the rest of the party clustered at his side. A voice snaps. If Alto defeats Irascileto, he'll seize the right to tackle the quest required to qualify for the Knight selection exam. Irascileto plants his feet, eyes blazing, and vows to the guildmaster he'll become a knight and restore honor to the guild's reputation. The guildmaster locks eyes with him and says, "I'm counting on you." One of Irascileto's party members locks eyes on Alto. Eyes lock on him, he's the no-skill the guild laid off, and another party member scoffs. "So our whole job is just to beat this guy? Too easy." A teammate snaps it'll be an instant kill. Irascileto's confidence explodes into a cocky grin as he agrees without hesitation. The guildmaster and Irascileto erupted into savage laughter, already savoring the idea of crushing Alto effortlessly. Leto whirled to Alto and Irascileto and barked, "I'll explain the rules now." He bellows the rules. Victory comes the moment you shatter your opponent's barrier or land the tiniest hit. The fight halts the instant that happens, and knights inside the venue stand ready to mend any minor wounds with healing magic. Alto soaks up the rules until every step clicks into place. He knows exactly what to do. Irascileto shrugs and says he doesn't mind if Alto unleashes his full strength, and that's it. Alto fires back. If it's inside the rules, go all out, don't hold back. The group steels themselves, straps on their gear, and prepares to head toward the arena. Leto bellows, "It's time to go." Alto charged forward, determination roaring in his veins, flanked by Irascileto and the officials. Storming toward the arena entrance, the announcer booms to the packed crowd, thanks everyone for waiting, and declares the duelists are making their entrance. Irascileto and Alto stride into the arena as the crowd erupts in a deafening roar. The announcer thundered that the public duel would begin now to decide the court's recommendation on the night selection exam, and the formal objection lodged against it. At the arena's center, the two opponents lock eyes as the armored referee, the knight butts, plants himself between them, introduces himself as their referee and thunders. "Do you understand the rules?" Alto and Irascileto snapped to attention and declared in unison that they understood. Irascileto smirked, vowed to fell Alto with a single devastating strike, and barked that he was starting. Butts blasts his whistle and bellows that the duel has begun. Irascileto surges forward, locking onto his highest-level move and unleashing Dragon Breath, a colossal magical blast. Alto instantly recognizes the technique, grimacing. He just survived a real dragon's breath back in the mine. Irascileto's spell rockets toward him. Alto ignites Fireball as his counter. Irascileto sneered and taunted Alto's pathetic low-level spell, cackling that Alto stood no chance. Then their spells thundered into each other dead center in the arena. Spectators stagger, jaws drop, as Alto's fireball swells to monstrous proportions. How the hell did a simple spell balloon into something that massive? Their two spells slammed together, detonating a thunderous shockwave of raw magic. Alto thrusts a blazing fireball straight ahead. It ripped straight through Irascileto's Dragon Breath. The collision detonated, unleashing titanic waves of raw energy. Ripples tore across the entire arena floor. The collision detonates into a devastating explosion, blasting the entire arena with bone-rattling shockwaves. Shockwaves tear outward from the impact as the blast devours the center with crushing force, and someone in the crowd freezes, jaw dropped and eyes wide at the scene unfolding. Irascileto screams, "It's impossible," as Alto's fireball slams into his Dragon Breath and devours it whole. A massive explosion rips the arena apart, the blast swallowing Irascileto in a wall of fire as Alto stands unscathed on the opposite side. A voice from the crowd rips through the air, screaming raw shock at what just went down. Dust settles as Irascileto slams into the earth, utterly defeated. The crowd explodes into gasps and roars, jaws dropping everywhere. No one can believe what they're seeing. The referee shoots his hand skyward and thunders, "Alto is the winner." Spectators reel, jaws dropped and minds scrambling, as Alto stands victorious in the center of the arena. Irascileto slumped, crushed by defeat, disbelief clawing at his chest. How had he been toppled by that incompetent, no-skill bastard? An official strides up to Alto and proclaims his power matches the rumors. He's truly worthy of knighthood, and Alto bows, thanking him. Down below, Charlotte's gaze snaps to Alto's. A memory of the one who saved her the other day crashes into her, and she whispers his name. Princess Charlotte rushes up to Alto, gratitude blazing in her voice as she thanks him profusely for the other day. Alto reels, eyes wide and voice cracking as he stammers, "Why, you're a princess." Charlotte blurts a hurried apology for the late introduction, then announces she's Princess Charlotte of the Kingdom of Lawrence. She tells him that if it weren't for him, she'd be dead by now, and she offers him her sincerest gratitude. The guildmaster thunders, "What is the meaning of this?" And someone nearby throws up their hands and admits, "I don't know either." Charlotte locks eyes with Alto, voice fierce. "I've seen your power again. You truly possess the strength of a knight." A male royal strode forward, voice ringing, as he announced his family would recommend Alto for the audition exam at the Royal Knight Academy. Charlotte presses on and throws down a gauntlet. To prove Alto's skills are fit for a royal recommendation, they don't give them to just anyone. He must conquer a quest first. Charlotte leans in and asks if he'll accept the quest, promising he'll be paid a hefty reward once it's completed. Alto snaps back without missing a beat, voice blazing, "I'd be honored." Charlotte told Alto she'd contact him again officially at a later date, her voice burning as she confessed she truly wants him to become a knight. They shake hands. Charlotte stakes high expectations on him, and Alto thanks her deeply, gratitude and fierce resolve written across his face. The guildmaster exploded, fists clenched, screaming at Irascileto that it all happened because he lost to that incompetent loser, and that he, too, had been humiliated. Rage surged as he tore into Irascileto for failing to clear a B-rank dungeon, a blunder that plunged their guild's prestige to rock bottom and drew the royal family's blistering resentment, while Irascileto could only apologize profusely. The guildmaster's voice cut like steel as he snapped that he'd have already fired Irascileto on the spot. And Irascileto erupted into panic, clawing and pleading for anything, to avoid being fired. The guildmaster thunders that Irascileto gets one last shot. He shouts that the guild's very survival teeters on a knife's edge, and he refuses to let it crumble. But at this rate, Irasolito will forget his career as an adventurer entirely. Irasolito begs, voice cracking, "What kind of chance is this?" Then the guildmaster's scheme clicks into place as he orders Irasolito to rig the odds and shove that bumbling Alto into a colossal blunder. He refused to buy the princess's jabs at Alto. A skillless nobody simply couldn't have toppled Irasolito in single combat. The guildmaster snaps that foul play is the only answer, expose Alto as incompetent, and their accusations are finally vindicated. Irasolito practically exploded with excitement, roaring, "Just what you'd expect from the guildmaster." The guildmaster barked that failure will never be tolerated again, and Irasolito shot back, buzzing with energy, vowing he'd rip the impostor's disguise to shreds. The next day, Irasolito and his party stand before the cave's gaping maw, and a member's voice trembles as they blurt, "Is this where the infamous S-rank boss is sealed?" Irasolito lifts a steady hand to calm them, declaring they don't need to fight monsters now. As an S-rank party, they'll be the ones to topple the boss sealed here. Today they're out on a scouting run, silent and sharp, picking up every scrap of intel. The party huddles shoulder to shoulder, eyes glued to the cave's black, hungry mouth. Irasolito's mask drops. He bribed a court official with a fortune to learn which quest Alto's being sent on, and he bets that no matter what tricks Alto uses, an S-rank boss will crush him. If his trap works, Irasolito can erase Alto as a nuisance for good. Irasolito's grin slices the air, cold and cruel, as he vows to make Alto fail no matter what. The party plunged into the cave system as Irasolito's voice cut the darkness, barking for everyone to move. Hours later, they reached the sealed chamber, looming in the dungeon's deepest, darkest heart. Irasolito braced himself before the seal as a dark, nauseating pulse clawed at his senses. A sinister aura seethes from the sealed boss, electric tingles crawling over his entire body. A party member snarled they'd lost count of how many S-grade potions and high-grade health potions they'd downed to reach this point, and now they're freezing up with cold feet. Irasolito roared, ordering his team to shatter the seal and snatch the talisman. She snapped, "This seal screams S-rank boss. We were only supposed to be scouting." Irasolito snaps for them to stop whining, insisting if they snatch the talisman and bolt right now there won't be a problem, and snarls that anyone who hesitates is fired. She barks at them to snatch the talisman this instant. Irasolito roared, "I did it." The seal rips apart, detonating into a blinding, thunderous blast of raw energy. With a deafening crack, the talisman splinters into a rain of shards while the party gapes up from below. The seal explodes, shredded by an unstoppable surge of force. The party scrambles, panic ripping through them as a massive surge of energy erupts. Irasolito screams and they bolt from the shattering seal, a voice booming through the chamber to declare itself the rank S boss, while the female party member screams for everyone to run and frantically casts physical buffs. Meanwhile, Irasolito's face contorts into a cruel grin as he realizes this is the end for Alto. The party barrels through the dungeon corridors as a lone member bellows, "Wait for the captain." A few days later, Alto receives his quest briefing as the knights unveil the two who will accompany him on the mission and carry out his evaluation. The royal family unleashed a mine-type dungeon that's brutally difficult, packed with almost nothing but B-rank or higher monsters and the boss, S-class. But this dungeon has a dark history. Adventurers once stormed its depths to challenge the boss, and its monstrous vitality turned the clash into an exhausting, never-ending slog. They couldn't even scratch it, so they sealed the boss away. It's been locked up like that for years. The knights slammed it home. This mission isn't about killing the boss. It's a grab-and-go to snatch the treasure chest from the boss room. 2 knights will accompany Alto, and with the boss sealed, he won't even encounter it. Alto hunched over the quest dossier, devouring every line with razor-sharp focus. He tore through a final sweep of his preparations, then slammed the auto-magic settings to ready. His potion shelves brim with glowing vials, everyone fully stocked and ready to go. Now Alto plants his boots at the dungeon's yawning entrance, a notorious boss looming inside. He's about to tackle the Knight Selection Exam's brutal high-difficulty quest. Fire rips through him as he vows he'll clear this quest no matter what. Alto charges into the dungeon's ominous maw, hungry to prove himself. Alto rips through the dungeon's depth, slicing monsters down with razor-precise strikes. Creatures crumple at his feet as he barrels headlong into the devouring darkness. Then suddenly, a swarm of glowing eyes snapped open up ahead, cutting through the dark and staring from the shadows. Alto hoists the ornate treasure aloft, triumph blazing in his eyes. We seize the quest objective. The female knight hails his detection. admitting she truly thought they were doomed the instant that S-rank alerts screamed to life. The knight blurts he never expected they'd clear the dungeon this smoothly, admits he's still got room to grow, and thanks Alto from the heart for carrying them through. The group decides to head back, triumphant after conquering the savage, high-difficulty quest. They burst out of the dungeon's yawning mouth and sprinted straight back into town. Alto collapses onto the steps, relief flooding him. They'd pulled it off without a single hitch, especially since the royal family themselves had assigned the quest. One of the knights finally confesses the truth. He's utterly exhausted. The two knights stretch, whooping and slamming fists together, shouting praise for Alto's power and beaming at the thrill of clearing the quest as a team. Alto's mind rockets to Lily, his childhood friend, as she charges to the starting line, already a step ahead of him. She was already top of her class at the Royal Knights Academy. She must have sharpened her edge trading blows with elite sparring partners there. She seized the right to challenge the Academy's selection exam. Branded with no skills and no magic aptitude, Alto has spent 3 brutal years grinding XP non-stop, literally racking up experience even while he sleeps. A spark flares in Alto. He's finally within reach of Lily if he can just ace the selection exam. Seated in meditation, he steels himself against the scorn that brands him skillless and vows to claw his way up to become a knight. Alto steels himself, ignites his auto magic, vows to grind harder for the exams, but first he snags a quick bite. Then, as he strides through town, a massive crowd erupts around him, whipping the streets into a roaring commotion. Alto freezes, swallowed whole as chaos detonates in every direction. A voice rips through the crowd, "Run!" As a spiky blonde in the center roars that the boss has come down from the mine, and Alto stands rooted, jaw dropped, unable to believe his eyes. Panic explodes, people clamor, "Are you serious? Do we need to hurry?" While someone hisses, "This is the one even a group of A-rank adventurers couldn't beat." The blonde jabbed a finger, warning it led straight to the boss, and Alto's stomach dropped as he realized the situation had gone completely sideways. People scatter in every direction as Alto bolts the opposite way. A cold realization hitting him that the mine-type dungeon he just dove into sits straight down this path. Right on the town's edge, they sprint to take down the boss, fast, and as far from the city as they can manage. Then Alto locks eyes with the threat. A gargantuan zombie dragon stomps into view, towering over him. Its undead silhouette loomed like a jagged tower, menace radiating from every inch. The dragon zombie snaps its wounds shut and reknits flesh over and over, shrugging off a relentless barrage hammering it. Someone barks the plan, and another adventurer's eyes go wide as every furious strike is shrugged off. The creature stitches itself back together, not a dent left. The situation spirals downward as someone warns it's inching ahead, slow, steady, and relentless. The blonde adventurer sizes up the swarm of high-ranking adventurers gathered here and knows it's not enough. Barreling like a freight train, the dragon zombie will crash into the city any second. Alto rockets across the elevated walkway, his mind pounding with the faces of everyone still in the city, then unleashes 16 blistering fireballs. The colossal spell slams into the dragon zombie, devastation tearing through its rotted scales. A searing burst of force reduced its head to dust. Alto gapes at the aftermath, convinced he blasted its head clean off. This should finish it. A panicked shout rips through the air. It's regenerating way too fast. The Knight Commander of Security storms onto the scene. A male knight with a goatee sweeps his gaze across the wreckage and instantly knows it's a complete disaster. No questions needed. He demanded a report on Spot's Alto, jaw clenched as he recognized him as the big shot the guards had mentioned earlier. A knight bellows to Alto that their attacks aren't even scratching it, and another voice snaps that the dragon zombie's monstrous regeneration is its signature, the very reason it's S-class. Scholars uncovered 7 cores buried in its torso. Everyone must be annihilated in the exact same instant. The challenge slams into focus. With 4 circuits, one caster can sustain a barrier and fire 3 attacks at once, and the magic circuit diagrams lay that limit bare. The blonde knight's breath catches as the truth slams into him. It's impossible. Alto swallows hard and admits to himself there's no way this will be easy. The blonde knight booms that the stronger your magic circuit, the higher your standard. Someone mutters they wish they had a Lily who wields 7 circuits. Chanting and technique speeds pulse differently in every fighter. To strike the 7 cores wriggling inside the body, you must hit them all in one instant, so it takes a team locking their skills together to pull it off. Alto's chest tightens. He can't hit both cores at the exact same moment. The blonde knight roars that they have no choice and that everyone must help, then barks for everyone to state how many magic circuits they have. Alto brags he has more than anyone here, and the blonde knight snaps that they'll obliterate the cores all at once. He's already locked onto them with his appraisal skill. 7 cores flare to life across the dragon's body. Left wing, left shoulder, right shoulder, solar plexus, neck, and head. The blonde knight roared that with 5 magic circuits he'll strike 5 spots, ordering Alto to hit 2 precise points. The right shoulder and the base of the right wing, and Alto snapped back, understood. The blonde knight bellows, here he goes. Alto roars, fire lance, and together they unleash a synchronized, crushing assault. Their onslaught crushes the dragon zombie from every angle. Fire lance rips through its body and hammers its cores, detonating in a savage explosion. Alto holds his breath, adrenaline roaring. Did it work? To him, it all happened at the same instant. Onlookers stared, breath snagging, as their moves snapped into flawless sync for a spur-of-the-moment duo. Exactly what you'd expect from a knight and a high-ranking adventurer. The blonde knight screamed, "It's no good." He'd fallen short, unable to shatter the core. Alto reels, shock ripping through him as the blonde knight snapped. The meat and hide aren't the same thickness, striking them together won't be enough. Alto roars that they must rip the matter open and lay its core bare. Someone snaps that even if they rip it open, it'll regenerate in an instant. And another voice growls they have to land 7 attacks at once just to expose the core in the first place. Someone snaps, we need to hit it with another 7 simultaneous attacks. And the blonde knight goes rigid, jaw dropping at the plan's sheer, impossible brutality. Suddenly, the blonde knight roars that they have to do it. He bellows for everyone to rally to his side. Alto and the others step up, shouting they're in. The blonde knight bellowed he could see all 7 cores, and someone barked for everyone to bring it down in one crushing strike. Alto and the others unleashed a coordinated onslaught, bellowing, "Fire lance!" as a storm of strikes converged on the dragon zombie. A voice explodes, "I destroyed the core," and another slices through instantly with a cold no. The blonde knight's voice slices the air as he snaps, "It's no use." Alto watches the group swell and feels the rhythm fray. Every extra person makes the timing that much harder to nail. Alto vowed he'd try again and again until it worked, and the blonde knight roared that he'd stand by him. At the city's entrance, exhausted fighters stagger, clinging to the last threads of strength. Alto's eyes cut across the battlefield. Everyone had unleashed high-level skills dozens of times, mana bleeding dry and their aim collapsing by the second. The blonde knight snaps, "What's our next move?" Alto calls out to him, his shout slicing the air as he pleads to be allowed to do it. The blonde knight whips around and demands, "Do you have many magic circuits?" Alto flinches and confesses, "Only one, just one." The blonde knight snarled, "Then we have nothing to talk about." And Alto shot back, "I can unleash 7 skills at once, give me one chance to prove it." The blonde knight leveled a skeptical glare at Alto, mentally sneering that someone with no skill and only a single magic circuit couldn't possibly be of any use. The blonde knight faces Alto and declares, "We'll try it," quietly confessing to himself that he's run out of options. Alto erupts in a grateful shout, determination crackling, he's primed to prove himself. Someone snarled at Alto they'd rip through the dragon zombie's flesh and expose the cores, then barked for him to destroy all 7 of those cores simultaneously. Alto snaps a firm nod and declares he understands. The blonde knight rockets forward, roaring, "I'm going in," as he unleashes a searing fire lance and ignites the coordinated assault. Multiple fighters burst from every flank, unleashing a relentless storm of strikes from all angles. Alto pummels the dragon zombie with a merciless barrage of strikes, and the blonde knight unleashes their synchronized onslaught. Colossal explosions shred the battlefield as their attacks converge on the massive undead creature. A shout rips through the air, all 7 cores are out. Another voice chokes out a frantic plea, begging their auto magic to kick in. Alto slams his hand into the air, unleashing his skill and commanding the blazing fireball X7 to surge forward. The blonde knight reels, eyes bulging as the truth slams him. Alto just fired 7 shots at once. Someone else choked out a gasp, eyes exploding with awe at the sight unfolding before them. Alto locks his gaze into laser focus, forcing every attack to sync to a single heartbeat so they all crash down at once. Racing thoughts hammered Alto as he locked onto the task. He had to strike the dragon with 7 blazing fireballs while the target kept darting. This was his moment to unleash the results of days spent practicing orbital control without rest. He refuses to taste defeat. Failure simply doesn't exist for him. Then a harsh voice barks, "Get out." Alto bolts in close, confronting the dragon zombie head-on as it erupts in a bone-rattling roar and lashes out to counter. Alto snarls, refusing to let it interfere, bellowing that nothing will stop him as he surges into his attack. The blonde knight commander stares at Alto amid the maelstrom, sure he's seconds from being crushed. Yet Alto stays stone still, not even a twitch. He watches Alto's laser focus lock in as he closes the gap and drives a bone-shattering blow straight into the dragon zombie. 7 fireballs slammed into their marks at the exact same instant. All 7 cores erupt at once, ripping shockwaves through the dragon zombie's hulking carcass. With every core shattered, the creature detonates into a cascade of savage blasts. Below, the onlookers watch breathless as the coordinated assault hits its mark and triumphs. A blinding nova rips across the battlefield as the dragon zombie finally topples in a thunderous crash. The crowd chokes and gapes, shock and raw emotion stamped on every face as the dust settles. The creatures lying strewn across the ground while Alto stands in the wreckage, a quiet, stunned nod proving he really did it. Onlookers freeze, jaws dropping, as someone shouts that Alto actually vanquished a dragon zombie. The blonde knight demands if he's serious. A stunned onlooker blurts they can't believe Alto pulled it off. Someone else gasps they've never seen anyone use 7 skills simultaneously and marvels that Alto's trajectory was razor precise. The blonde knight storms up to Alto, confessing he couldn't have done it alone and thanking him, then grins and asks for his name. It's a bit late for introductions, and Alto answers, Alto. A voice nearby snaps that he's the man who steamrolled that duel the other day, ending it in an instant, and the blonde knight's eyes flash. The name rings a bell. Alto's voice slices through the chaos, calm and precise, as he confirms it. The blonde knight admits he'd heard the rumors, but witnessing that blistering display proves Alto truly belongs among knights. He concedes no knight can unleash 7 spells at once. Alto snaps a quick thanks, eyes cool as steel. He knows he could fire 16 at once, and he buries that fact behind a smile. Knight ignites as the crowd surges around Alto, roaring that a hero of the city has been born, shouting they survived because of him and calling down blessings on their savior. Back at the palace, Princess Charlotte bursts into the chamber and tells a male royal official that Lord Alto's mission was a total success. And the official reels. Alto actually defeated the S-rank boss that had been sealed away, and the thought of it staggers him. Charlotte storms in and slams down the report the knight who rode with Alto filed after the mission. The knight's assessment hails Alto's skill, courage, focus, and cooperation as superb. He even says he'd genuinely love to stand shoulder to shoulder with him as a fellow knight. Princess Charlotte's eyes flashed as she declared the results breathtaking and vowed they'd make Alto a knight, no matter the cost. The male official answered with a crisp, unquestioning nod. Then someone blurts that the boss they'd just toppled had been sealed permanently from the start, and telltale marks show someone ripped that seal open, screaming foul play. In the palace hallway, Princess Charlotte and the male official leaned close as he relayed the accompanying knight's claim that they'd stormed the sealed boss room. Someone snapped that Alto had smashed the barrier himself, and the official vowed the true culprit and the evidence would be exposed soon. The official boomed that the culprit was Eraso, the man who dueled Lord Alto, and just as Princess Charlotte had suspected, guards seized Eraso and arrested him on the spot. Princess Charlotte froze, her gaze sharpening as she pinned down the bitter grudge at the heart of it all. The official told Princess Charlotte with a cold smile he'd seen it coming, had already summoned the military police, and condemned Eraso to 20 years of mind labor. Meanwhile, Erasolito perched at the table, laughter spilling from him as he reveled. His plan clicked into place perfectly as the boss beamed, and he pictured that if that guy failed his quest, Erasolito himself would become a knight. Without warning, the military police stormed into the room. A scream ripped through the air. Military police are here, freeze, don't move. Erasolito freezes, eyes wide, as a ring of officers snaps around him and the military police thunder that he's under arrest for unsealing an S-rank boss and jeopardizing the entire city. Erasolito erupts, desperate and roaring for answers as they move to cuff him, insisting it's a mistake and clutching at time. What proof do you have? I had nothing to do with this. The officers snapped for him to stop fighting and shoved the evidence in his face. Erasolito kept screaming that this had to be a mistake as they hauled him away. Back at the palace, officials erupted with the news they'd also hauled in the guild master Eroso, answered to, and both men were slapped with fresh counts, bribery and power harassment, sealing far harsher punishments. Someone hisses with grim relief that they cut him down before he could threaten Master Alto, and the male official snaps, absolutely. A knight shouts that Master Alto has arrived, and Princess Charlotte snaps, open the gates, let him in. Alto strides into the hall and Princess Charlotte lights up. It's been a while. she says, thanking him for protecting the city from that rampaging boss. Princess Charlotte leans in, eyes blazing, and says she heard he felled an opponent knights couldn't drop with a single blow. His skill already outstrips any knights. Alto brushed off the praise, saying softly they only won because he worked shoulder to shoulder with everyone. Officials thrust the gleaming reward into Alto's hands, and Princess Charlotte proclaims that, for completing this quest and saving the city, they've officially cleared him to face the knight selection exam. Alto explodes with deep gratitude, showering them with profuse, heartfelt thanks. Princess Charlotte beams at Alto, certain he'll smash the trials. Once he becomes a knight, she wants him to lend his power to her unit, and she fervently hopes he passes with flying colors. Alto explodes with enthusiasm, vowing, "I'm truly honored. I'll give everything I've got to live up to your expectations." Princess Charlotte meets his gaze and fires, "Good luck out there." A few days later, Alto storms up to the Royal Knight Academy, a massive fortress bristling with towers and turrets that looms over him. Students streamed across the grounds as he craned his neck, devouring the sprawling sight. They unveil the academy system. Alto is thrust into the month-long knight selection exam and treated exactly like a knight academy student, while the school splits students into two camps, regular academy students and recommended commoners. Between grueling exams, classes forge students into true knights, teaching more than drills, the mindset, duty, and instincts that make a warrior. Alto cuts across the academy grounds as noble student Steele glances his way, his mind racing with visions of life in the school dorms when exam period arrives. Elites from every corner of the country flood in to hone their skills, and a brutal truth slams into him. He won't become a knight unless he outshines every single one of them. Alto steels himself to do what he always does, quiet, efficient work. Then his gaze darts around, hunting for where the orientation is. A staffer barrels over to Alto and the waiting students and snaps that the briefing officer will arrive any moment, telling them to hang on a little longer. Alto stands in the hallway, face like iron as realization slams into him. Entering the Royal Knight Academy doesn't make you a knight. Everyone here is a rival. The knight selection hits only once, smack in the middle of third year. Alto's caught wind that the title Academy graduate swings open doors to work fail, and you'll carry the lifelong weight of never becoming a knight. Alto marched alone, every step a thunderous reminder that becoming a knight had once felt utterly impossible. His thoughts snapped to Lily, the girl who transferred in the middle of another semester. Had she advanced on schedule, she'd already have graduated and been sworn in as a knight. A voice cries, "Alto." He spins, and a gut punch of realization hits. He's taking the exact same exam Lily did, just a year behind her, and a fierce thought ignites, don't give up and the chance will come back around. Off to the side, students swarm in a hive of whispers, snickering about the nepotism brat who's the talk of the school. A blonde noble swaggers up to Alto, a smug smirk carved across his face, and proclaims he's Bon heir of the House of Bone and a current student at the Royal Knight Academy. Alto cuts to the chase, drops a sharp, no-nonsense introduction and keeps it short. Bon sneers at Alto, taunting, "What dirty tricks did a guy like you pull to snag that recommendation?" Alto grimaced. Dealing with guys like this drained him, so he shrugged him off coldly, relying on the survival skills he honed in the Black Guild to get him through. Then Bon barks at Alto to flash his magic aptitude, so he can read it with his appraisal skill. Alto's chest tightens as he realizes higher-tier appraisal magic can pry someone else's aptitude wide open, and he's pretty sure that's a serious breach of etiquette. Bon doesn't care and fires his appraisal skill straight at him. His eyes snapped open in shock when he saw only one magic circuit, and Bond muttered, "Pathetic." Students around them erupt into loud gossip. A voice yells that with only one barrier, Alto's doomed. How's he even supposed to attack? Others snicker that even a commoner has more circuits than that. Bonbon roars at Alto, crowing that knights are superior, just like him, and bellows, "Watch this." He conjured a blistering fireball and hurled it in a show-stopping blaze. The students erupted into cheers, shouting, "As expected of Lord Bond, he's mastered 5 magic circuits at once with flawless precision." Bond bellowed, "Witness the power of a man destined for knighthood." He sneered at Alto, snarling that someone who struggles to keep a single barrier standing could never hope to serve as a knight. Bond's smug grin flares as he sneers. "Looks like Alto's frozen, dazzled by the sheer magnificence of my magic." Alto smiles, cool as ice, and asks if Bond's really bragging about landing only 5 fireballs. He'd written off the princess's praise as empty flattery, but maybe, even at his current strength, he can actually hold his own. The nobles bristled. confusion flipping into fury at Alto's smug smile as they demanded what he was so giddy about, then snapped that if he claimed he wasn't tied to any higher connection, he'd better prove it. Someone taunts, "How many hits do you need on the target?" and throws down a dare. "Go on, Alto, try it if you think you can." Alto bellows, "Fireball time 16. He roared the spell, and 16 fireballs erupted from his palms, streaking in perfect unison straight for the training target. A colossal barrage of fireballs slams into the targets, each explosion shredding them with pinpoint, devastating force. The nobles froze like statues, mouths agape, while Bon and the others exploded into hysteria, screaming, "Impossible, 5. No, 16 at once. No way that's even possible." A voice sliced through the chaos, snapping, "What kind of trick did Alto pull?" Bond roared at him, "Don't give me that crap. There's no way you pulled that off without cheating." Alto's voice slices the tension, cool and unshaken. "I didn't cheat at all." Pressed for an answer, Alto grudgingly admits his unique skill is basically a cheat. A guy explodes, "I only have one magic circuit," then goes dead silent in disbelief while someone else snaps that the place has gotten way too loud. They snapped, "What the hell is going on?" Suddenly, a stern-faced man strides forward, names himself Arthur, and reveals he's the appointed examiner for this term's selection. Heads snap toward him as students surge forward, yelling, "Is that really Captain Arthur, the prodigy who became the youngest captain in history?" Arthur snaps, "I'll cut to the chase. The exam has 3 rounds, individual duels, a perilous dungeon crawl, and furious team battles, and I'll award an emblem to anyone I judge to have met the required standard." Alto watches, stunned. As Arthur commands the room like a superstar, people part, whisper, and swarm for a glimpse. Arthur rips into the exam's structure. 3 emblems in total: the emblem of effort, the emblem of adaptability, and the emblem of teamwork. Collect all 3, and you earn the right to become a knight and pass the exam. He lays it out. Candidates must claim 1 emblem from each of the 3 exams. A diagram maps the gauntlet. Dungeon battle, team battle, individual battle, all converging on Alto as the participant. If a candidate's abilities shine, officials can award multiple emblems in a single exam. At least that's how the system reads on paper. Arthur charges on and delivers one blunt warning. Every year a few people coast until the final exam, hoping to snatch all 3 emblems in one sweep. Emblems won't fall for that naive gamble. He warns that anyone who can't unleash everything in the first test will almost never find the guts to rise for the next. He drops that it comes from someone hailed as an elite even among the knights, and Alto grits his teeth. They'll have to earn every scrap of recognition, and this exam will be merciless. The noble students clustered, hanging on Arthur's last words as he closed the briefing. Exams in 1 week. Merciless one-on-one duels where everyone must face everyone. He smirks and announces the matchups will stay locked until exam day, calls the session over, and brusquely dismisses them. 1 week later, the Royal Palace arena thundered to life, jammed shoulder to shoulder with roaring spectators. Alto looks back on the last week. With unlimited run of the training grounds in his free hours, he devoured applied drills he couldn't when he was cramped in the forest, kept the auto magic humming non-stop until today, and used classes to grill pros with questions, blasting past slow self-study. He burst into the day in perfect condition, and his fire magic shot up a level, the first time it had risen in ages. Then a voice rips through the air, bellowing, "Alto." Lily barrels toward him, buzzing with energy, and Alto recognizes her in an instant. Lily bursts forward, eyes alight, practically squealing. It's been a while. They meet up in the arena's waiting room, shoved shoulder to shoulder with a restless swarm of fellow students, the air crackling with nervous energy. Alto erupted into a grin, congratulating Lily and exclaiming she actually became a knight in. Lily thanks him, her voice a relieved roar. "You've finally made it this far, too." Lily, his junior, beams and shouts a fierce, "Good luck in the future, Alto." Alto, stunned, admits her skill is incredible. He explains a whirlwind unfolded, but he still wrestled a recommendation from the princess. Alto vows he'll give his all as her senior. Another noble storms up, shouting, "Alto, I never knew you knew a knight." And Alto just tosses back a cool, simple hello. A noble student bursts into the arena hallway, locks eyes on Alto and grins. "Looks like we're matched up for today's game." Suddenly, another noble student bellows at Alto, vowing he'll prove once, and for all that Alto isn't a cheater and demanding he give everything today. Bonbon, heir to the House of Bones, planted himself among the nobles as one sneered there wasn't a 1 in a million chance they'd lose, and he nodded, heir's confidence burning in his gaze. Alto hangs back from them, jaw tight and eyes burning. He hungers to uncover what fuels that impossible confidence. A lone figure watched the scene, silent as a shadow. An older, broad-shouldered man in a pristine suit suddenly fills the doorway. Bon barreled over, electric with excitement, gasping, "Could Duke Walo have come to see you?" He proclaims he's Bon. A caption slams across the screen. "Duke Walo, Minister of the Royal Court." Bon spills a flood of thanks, but Duke Walo's stare hardens as he snaps. "Don't you dare disappoint me. I expect greatness from you as my son." He brushes it off, snapping at Bon to drop it. He's the father's superior, and the father is a man beyond compare. Alto stands there frozen, watching, his mind racing as he pieces the whole exchange together. The group watches, hearts pounding, as Duke Walo strides away down the hallway. Bon whips toward Alto, menace crackling in his stare. One student snaps, "Did you see him flaunt that his family, the House of Bone, holds the court's trust?" Another student fires back, "Trust is everything to a knight." A bald man suddenly crashes to his knees in the dead center of the arena. Bon bellows that he bears the Duke's expectations and is a truer knight than Alto could ever be. Then someone shouts, "Pardon the intrusion." An older man in elaborate royal robes strides into the hallway. Noble students gasp in shock, as a caption names him King Lawrence, father of Queen Charlotte, and he drawls that many students are retaking the exam this year. Just before their exam, someone bursts in, blurts a hurried apology for the intrusion, and urges everyone to ignore him and carry on like nothing happened. Alto froze, jaw-dropping. What business could a king possibly have in a place like this? Bon reels, his brain short-circuiting as he realizes the king himself stands before him. In an instant, Bon lunged forward, bellowing that meeting his majesty for the first time is an honor. For generations, the House of Bone has guarded the royal family, and the minister himself lauds his father. The king locks eyes on Alto and says his daughter won't stop talking about him. He's been itching to see him in action. Alto's jaw drops, his eyes shoot wide as surprise slams into him. A tiny panel seared into his mind, Charlotte standing there with the king. Charlotte fires a cheerful, luck-charged wave at Alto, and the king bursts in, bowing as he apologizes for interrupting just before the exam. Alto shoots back, heart blazing, "I'll do my very best." The royal party pulls away as students press into the hallway and pour onto the arena floor, every gaze welded to them. Bon freezes, his features twisted into a mask of shock and boiling rage, while students behind him murmur in stunned confusion. You freeze, stunned that the king and princess are whispering to a humming magic circuit, while a lone cheater grins nearby. A voice slices through the chatter, "Is everyone gathered?" The official barked that they were heading to the arena now, and commanded everyone to follow him. The group threaded through the hallway as noble students murmured, and one snapped. "Alto's only taking the knight selection because of a royal recommendation. We're being treated differently." As a noble, he thunders he'll see to it Alto is taught a proper lesson. Meanwhile, another noble student sneered that the king must have pulled some underhanded trick to be showing Alto that much consideration. Arthur strides onto the official podium, his voice slicing through the roaring crowd as he declares the individual matches of the selection exam begin now. First to land a blow on their opponent wins. The announcer thundered, "First match, Alto versus Bon." A noble student snaps an order to step forward. Alto and Bon stride onto the arena floor. Taking their positions for the duel, Bon and Alto lock eyes in the arena while Arthur plants himself between them as referee. In the spectator stands, a sneering student brags that Alto's tricks fooled everyone last time but won't hold up in a real fight, and a hulking noble grins, declaring he'll finish Alto in 2 seconds flat. The announcer's voice tore through the arena like a thunderclap, ordering the fighters to begin the match. The match erupts instantly as Bon lunges first, screaming "Blizzard Launcher, kill Alto," and blasting the opening attack. He sneers at Alto, calls him a fool, and bellows that no mid-tier skill stands a chance against his high-tier power. Alto snaps into action and slams the Fire Lance X16 to roaring life. Magic collides at the arena's center as Alto's fire lances obliterate Bon's ice. A hail of flaming spears rips through the blizzard and surges onward with brutal force. Alto strides through the magical wreckage as his assault dominates the battlefield and the noble students in the stands gape, utterly speechless. Shock pins Bon to the spot. He can barely process it as he chokes out, "Fire Lance Rain, a top-tier skill," and the attack slams into him. He howls as the inferno scorches him. A brutal blow sends Bon crashing to the ground, utterly defeated. He lies crumpled on the arena floor. He completely mistook Alto's multiplied mid-tier spell for a true top-tier skill. The match ends in seconds. Alto unleashes a fire lance barrage that rips through the arena, obliterating everything in its path. The magical blades rip through boulders and rubble, unleashing a howling storm of stone and dust. The onslaught slams into Bone, swallowing him whole. Slammed to the dirt, he was finished in seconds. Noble students in the stands reel in stunned silence. One stammers that Lord Bone, one of the top students in their grade, was struck down in an instant, while another sits frozen, utterly unable to process it. Bone collapses to the ground, disbelief blazing in his eyes, as he spits out that he lost to a cheating bastard like Alto. A noble student snaps, jabbing a finger at Alto and roaring that he cheated again, branding him a coward. The dark-haired noble student slices through the protests with an ice-cold declaration. Even if it was cheating, on the battlefield the living are the winners. A thunderous announcement blasts through the arena, crowning Alto the victor. Duke Willow reels, disbelief ripping through him at what he just saw, while a fellow noble student stands frozen, mouth agape. One brutal strike erased the Bone family's heir in a heartbeat. An official strides forward, thrusting the M into Alto's hands. A hard-won emblem claimed with sweat and grit, proving you blasted through the first round. Arthur boomed the next match, calling Gregory Burns and Mia Knightley forward. They stepped into the arena, snapped into position, and stared each other down, ready for their duel. Perched in the stands, a student watches, breath caught, as a tiny creature squares off against a feral beast. Arthur bellows for the match to start. Gregory, burning with fury, rockets forward and screams, "Sand shot." Mia snaps into action, casting a towering ice wall to shield herself as the magical barrier surges into being. She funnels her spell, and a glowing magic circle snaps into being right before her. Gregory pounces again, smashing down a crushing stone hammer. He unleashed a colossal arcane blast that barreled straight at her. Mia sidesteps the blow and snaps a lightning-fast counter straight into him. Gregory fires sand shot again, blasting a storm of sand projectiles straight at her. Mia screams as the barrage slams into her, fighting to withstand Gregory's merciless onslaught. The announcement thundered, crowning Gregory Burns the winner. Reality hit him. His opponent's magic moved faster and struck with surgical precision. Students in the stands mock him as a slowpoke. A noble laughs aloud, claiming he should have been the one to fight him, and Gregory Burns stands triumphant. Mia slumps, defeated on the ground, wedged between him and another student. Alto hangs back at the edge, eyes locked on Mia as she drops her head, dejection crushing her. Arthur waved everyone off for the day, his voice booming with praise. "Good work. The second exam's in 2 weeks," he declared, promising the details will follow later. Students erupt into a buzzing chorus. Fewer than 1 in 3 of the entire group actually snagged an emblem. Alto's thoughts snap into focus as the crowd disperses. Grim truth. The second exam is a dungeon crawl. He should outclass the Knight Academy students, but dungeons live to spit out brutal, soul-shaking surprises. It hits him if every ordeal plays out like this. Almost no one will become a knight. Alto rockets toward the training grounds, determination blazing through him. He's bent on being fully prepared. Alto storms into the training grounds moments after the exam and finds it deserted, exactly as he expected. His gaze snaps to the distance. There she is, Mia unmistakable, flanked by 2 guys. At the training grounds, 2 male students cornered Mia. One sneered that she was still training after failing. The other laughed that training after coming in dead last was a complete waste. A male student sneered at Mia, demanding she know her place and jeering, "Aren't you ashamed?" The other snaps, "Maybe she's too stupid to even know where she stands." Alto cuts through the bickering and snaps, "Which one of you is actually the embarrassment here?" The male students whirled toward him, confusion burning in their eyes as they snapped, "What's your problem?" Alto snaps that Mia, right after the exam, was the first to leap back into training, then lashes out. "Which of you should be embarrassed for sneering at someone pouring everything into training and trampling the code of chivalry?" Alto's thoughts thundered over the 3 years since the rite of aptitude. He'd forged himself with relentless training, never cracking no matter how many cutting words slammed into him. He felt this agony deeper than anyone, and he knows the fierce, electric glory of refusing to quit. Head snapped to Alto. One blurts he's from the outside exam. Another scoffs they've never seen his face before, yet he's all swagger and bluster. Then one of them snaps it together. He's the one who felled Bone with a single, devastating blow. Alto's chest tightened as he eyed the school. He'd expected it to be crawling with nobles, and yet unease coiled in his gut. Mia strides up to Alto, thanks him with a radiant grin, then proclaims, "I'm Mia Knightley, a student at the Knight Academy." Alto waves it off, insisting she owes him no thanks. Mia bursts out that she watched his match today. His magic was impossibly refined and breathtaking. And she turns to Alto, pleading to know how she can become as strong as him. Alto leans in, insisting he won't say a word until he sees her magic. So he asks what she excels at. Mia smirks and reveals her top-tier power is a one-of-a-kind skill. Alto practically vibrates with excitement and blurts, "Can you show me?" Mia leans in, grins, and dares Alto to make a few flames hover instead. Alto nods sharply, channels blistering heat into his palm, then flings a roaring fireball. Mia snapped back instantly, firing a dispel shot. Alto gapes, heart slamming, as his magic evaporates into thin air, leaving no sign it ever existed. Alto reels, disbelief claws at him over what just happened. He devoured every book on bizarre talents, and none of them ever mentioned anything like this. Mia snaps, "That's magic resolve." A tiny bullet rips through a skill's magic core and instantly nullifies it. Right then, Alto's breath caught. He saw the raw, jaw-dropping power coursing through her. Mia confesses she still can't harness it. That last shot was nothing but sheer luck. When their mana waves slam into each other and twist every trajectory, you can unleash 100 shots and still walk away without a single hit. Alto knows cranking up a skill is one thing. Actually mastering how to wield it is a totally different battle. He offers himself with a daring grin, telling Mia she can use him for practice. Mia's face snaps into stunned disbelief at the offer, yet panic claws at her. She can't stop replaying the moment, terrified she actually hit Alto. Alto soothes her, owning up that he used to be wrecked trying to juggle multiple skills at once, saying you only learn when magic slams into magic, and you feel it in your bones. Then he admits he starts to falter around the guest area. He reveals his unique skill locks it on reflex, unleashing shots every time with identical trajectory and force. His steady second shots prove it. Alto grins, declaring it's perfect practice. Every shot is chantless and exactly the same. Mia flashes a grateful grin, thanks him profusely, and announces she's starting to get the hang of this. Alto flashes a confident grin and fires back a thunderous yes, and Mia erupts into an ecstatic whoop of agreement. Alto slams his palm down, eyes blazing, and roars, "Let's get started with the training." The training session rages on, with Alto right in the thick of it. Malto plants his feet in the practice field. As a ring of blazing fireball, projectiles hovers and crackles around him. At him, Mia screams, "Spell shot," and she unleashes a magic nullifying bullet, sending it screaming into one of them. The shot screams past, skimming inches from one of Alto's shimmering magic spheres. 30 minutes later, Mia collapses to the ground, utterly spent, her mana reserves drained dry. Alto gasps out an apology for keeping her there so long. He grins fiercely and declares, "This is my training too." Mia bursts out, "Do you have a bigger mana pool? You're spamming way more skills than I am." Alto confesses he started out as the weakest at magic. It hits him, Mia must have sweated blood for this. Raw mana reserves don't mean a thing for real magical aptitude. Mia drops into a low, desperate bow before Alto and begs him to take her as his apprentice. Alto freezes, the request slamming into him like a sucker punch that steals his breath. Mia snaps her head up, fire igniting in her eyes, and vows she'll become as strong as him. Mia clutches her failed exam as the old sting settles in. She's always stuck at the bottom of the class, classmates sneering that she's so weak she's not even good practice, and she finishes dead last, again. Mia roars that she'll become someone who can stand tall in her own strength. Weak now, she'll push herself as hard as Alto does. Alto's jaw clenches. Mia's struggle is the same brutal fight he once faced. Doubt gnaws at him that he can teach her anything, but he accepts her request and declares, "I'm counting on you." Mia showers him with thanks and immediately throws herself into helping, guiding newcomers around the school and tackling daily chores with everything she's got, even though she can't repay him in any big way. Alto confesses he's totally lost on campus, so getting a guide would be a lifesaver. Mia whoops and leaps at the chance. 2 weeks later, the second exam erupts at a dungeon site. For the next few days, 5 contenders a day will charge the gauntlet, each fighting to clear it. Mia's gaze sliced through the crowd as contestants closed in, dread knotting in her gut as she wondered whether Alto would be all right. One examiner curls a cold grin, already counting the seconds until Alto drops out. Inside the dungeon, someone whoops that it's been ages since they were in one, and it's a total rush. They banter that the exam shifts day to day, and another snaps that's to stop students mapping and cheating. The dungeon never stays put. Before the second exam erupts as an examiner declares that knights tackle missions from escort duties to dungeon raids, and for this round the students must storm and conquer a dungeon. Alto's memory snaps into focus. He recalls every detail and feels his body turn to lead while his skills lose their edge. He pieces together the dungeon itself bleeds a debilitating aura. This trial exists to measure how quickly they can adapt. Even the organizers feared dropping high-rank monsters into the test dungeon, too risky. So they slapped a crippling debuff on the area to watch how students cope when their powers are sabotaged. Alto plunges into the dungeons more as Glad exhales. This run's going smooth, while Alto's auto-magic combs every shadow for traps and enemies. Alto dashes through the dungeon floors, pinning his search on the rarest item around, and betting the treasure on the final floor is the rarest prize. He bolts for the stairs leading down, and realizes they're almost at the 10th floor. Alto snaps his detection tool to life, and it instantly flares, provoking an immediate reaction. A map explodes onto the screen, the target pulsing like a beacon dead center. He realizes they're blasting through this at a surprisingly brisk pace. Alto tore through the dungeon, emerged unscathed, and sprinted back to declare his quest cleared. The examiners stare, jaws dropping as his stamina too explodes past what's required, clearly more than enough. One examiner clamps a farsight crystal to his eye, traces Alto's route, and declares his choices and pacing perfectly balanced. Alto is branded passed. He bows, thanking them for their evaluation, then a voice explodes from the crowd. They erupted, screaming that Alto had blatantly cheated. The accuser roars that a no-skill nobody like Alto couldn't possibly have conquered the dungeon and screams that he must have cheated. Alto cut through the noise with a cool, steady voice, insisting he'd done nothing of the sort. Rage tore through Duke Wilo as he roared that the results had only strengthened the princess faction. His subordinates throw themselves at his feet, unleashing frantic apologies, terrified of drawing His Highness's wrath as well. Duke Wilo thundered that he was counting on them. Failure wasn't an option. He vows his son will seize first place to boost the prince's faction's prestige, and swears he'll bring Alto down in the next exam. Rumors explode that Duke Wilo planted a crippling debuff on Alto to ruin him. His father personally hired professionals from the underworld. A skeptical voice snaps that Alto must have had an outsider sneak in buffs, slamming him as a coward, and insisting there's no way he could have cleared a high-difficulty dungeon while crippled by a stamina-sapping debuff. An official storms in, declaring he'd watched Alto through a remote crystal the entire exam and seen nothing suspicious, then snaps. What's unfair about his performance? The nobleman spluttered and stammered, words dying as silence swallowed any reply. The older noble leans in, eyes blazing, and challenges Bonbon. Do you have any reason to believe Alto can't be won over? Bonbon's jaw snaps shut, irritation flaring, and he refuses to speak. Only a razor-cold stare answers. The official booms that the test will continue and calls, "Next, Mia Knightley." A trembling voice stammers, "We're proceeding." Bonbon swaggered off, untouchable, while his associates skittered after him, voices cracking with panic. Are we good? Did anyone find out about the cheating? Before the next test rolls around, Alto beams, congratulates Mia on passing, and fires her up to give the next one everything she's got. Mia swears she'll pour every last ounce of herself into it. Later in the training area, Mia proclaims she's been grinding non-stop for 2 straight weeks, so she should be totally fine, and Alto agrees with her. Dread coils in his gut as he watches her step into the dungeon all by herself. A few hours bleed away, and Alto's worry flares when he realizes Mia is still in there, taking way too long. Deep in the dungeon, Mia battered her way forward, pouring every last ounce of strength into each brutal strike. Suddenly, an armored examiner materializes right before her, flat out declares her unqualified and lacking skill, and snarls that if the dungeon deems anyone incapable of clearing it, they're instantly flung back to the entrance. Alto's eyes snap as Mia is flung from the dungeon. He rockets to her side, shouting, "Are you okay?" Mia hisses, "It's impossible." She failed 2 of the 3 exams, so she must claw 3 emblems from the final test just to pass. Even after everything, Mia vows to Alto she won't give up yet, and thanks him for worrying about her. She insists she's fine. Alto watches her, concern burning in his gaze. Worry clawed at him as he groped for words and came up empty. As the second test wraps, an examiner slams the room silent and announces the final exam. In 1 week, they'll throw a team battle, students pairing off to clash in mock duels. Listen up, the rules are brutal. Shatter a fighter's barrier and they're out of the fight. If both members of a team are taken out, that team loses. The examiner grimly notes that far too many candidates walked away with 0 emblems and quit, and the night selection, once open to any applicant, has had its rules ripped apart. Nothing is the same. The examiner thundered that everyone who came to the venue today will be split into teams for the 3rd test. Opponents stay hidden until match day. The day before detonates into an all-out sprint of preparation. He sneers, branding everyone as the... As the students scatter, someone yells that the turnout has nosedived since the first test. Fewer than half remain now. Mia smirks, tossing out the cold truth. Most people don't even have a single emblem after all. Mia leans in, voice sharp. If they get 3 more tries, can they actually pull it off next time? Alto reveals that many who ended up emblemless actually quit even after clearing the first and second exams. Mia relays her senior's words, then blurts out that nothing like this has ever happened before. Alto fires back. When the odds are almost 0, you can't blame anyone for giving up. Mia locks eyes with him in silence for a heartbeat. Then Alto shatters the hush, insisting she should be proud of herself for still being here. At the training grounds, Mia unleashes a lightning-quick dispel shot. The spell screamed past its target, skimming by inches, and someone snapped. That was close. A male student barks that she still can't land intermediate-level skills, and the spell only connects at point blank. Coming that close would be suicide. Mia tosses Alto a grateful grin and thanks him, her aims miles sharper than it used to be. Alto bellows to her that they discovered accuracy shifts with skill level, and someone urges them to keep fine-tuning it before the 3rd test. Out of nowhere, an older nobleman in full court regalia strode forward, an official badge flashing on his chest. Alto's gaze snaps to the court official's badge, a jolt of alarm hitting him. Who's there? The nobleman bellows that he's tracked them down. Mia's head snaps up, heart pounding, as recognition slams into her. It's her father. Alto's eyes snap open. It's Count Niter, Mia's father. The Count barked, "I heard you failed the night exam both times," and Mia, voice barely a breath, confirmed it. The Count continues, saying that people at court are talking about it, wondering if she still intends to keep at it. He snaps that they're calling her a fool, sneering that Count Niter's daughter has no talent to become a knight. Alto barrels forward and begs the Count to wait a moment. Mia blurts an apology, voice raw as she pleads she's trying so hard. The Count snaps, "Who is Alto?" He sneers that effort alone won't forge a knight. Only results matter, and this disgrace is already staining the whole family, while Mia watches, concern written on her face. Alto snaps to object, but the Count cuts him off with a cold bark, insisting nobles alone must bear their roles and responsibilities. He roars, "Don't disgrace the family name any further." The Count bellowed his ultimatum, "Fail every exam and you'll be banished." Mia stared at him, frozen, shock carving her face. As Count Nitri vanished, Alto sank onto the steps, eyes locked on the retreating figure. Called out how the Count planted his piece, then just belayed. Mia slumps to his side, hollow-eyed and defeated, and says flatly that her father's always like that. They scoffed at her for having no gift for magic, and her father flat-out forbade her from even entering the Knight Academy. Even after she enrolled, she flunked exam after exam. After everything she's been through, she still refuses to quit and reaches for one more chance. Mia roars that everyone said she'd never be a knight. She vows to prove her father wrong. Alto nods, fire in his eyes. He's with her iron determination. In a royal court chamber, Duke Walo storms up to Bon Bon, fury crackling as he spits that he'd pinned his highest hopes on him, and Bon Bon has failed twice now. Bon Bon pours out a frantic, non-stop apology, pleading, "I'm truly sorry." The Duke bellows that the next test is the final one. No turning back, and Bon Bon swears he'll succeed this time. Rage boiled in the Duke as he thought, "Alto's such a stubborn bastard." The Duke asks for a concrete plan, sneering that talk is cheap. A proctor's voice booms. The final exam is a team battle, and they're pairing Alto with the weakest student first. They spat number 1, that hopeless little girl everyone talks about. They'll slam in more poison like clockwork, and they've engineered a cruel toxin that only the antidote can cure. The Duke's eyes flashed as he declared the poison rare and impeccably prepared, lauding the plan's cold, flawless thoroughness. Outside, Alto and Mia strode side by side. Mia confessed she never imagined she'd end up paired with Alto for the final exam, and Alto shot back that he never expected it. He teases the opponents won't be revealed until tomorrow. Toss your worries aside for now. Alto beams at Mia, thrilled to be her partner, bragging that knowing each other's fighting styles makes coordinating a breeze. He rallies her, urging them to go all out together tomorrow, and Mia vows she'll push herself so she won't drag him down. Alto declares she'll be fine. Her relentless training has piled up into the strength they'll need to save them, and Mia clings to that, hoping he's right. Alto strides away, eyes locked on the sinking sun. It's already setting, so they must rest now and be in perfect condition for tomorrow's final exam. Mia agrees. Alto presses on when a stranger steps up and asks for a moment to talk. A voice from the crowd snaps, "Bond, did you do it?" Bond storms up to Alto, eyes fierce, and spits, "I need to make up for how I've treated you." The apology explodes out of nowhere, leaving Alto frozen and speechless. Bond shot out an apology, confessing he'd been so consumed by the thought of finally being knighted tomorrow that, looking back, he saw how childish he'd been toward Alto. He goes on, admitting Alto's dazzling skill lit a fire in him he couldn't quench, but they might end up serving side by side as fellow knights, so it's no big deal. Bond pleads with Alto, voice cracking, begging to be allowed to apologize properly. Someone shouts tomorrow's the final exam, and even Alto, the training fanatic, has to rest. My gut screams this reeks of suspicion. Alto and Bond clasp hands and Bond declares, "Let's grab a meal, my treat at that popular restaurant." Alto grumbles he's not in the mood, but he figures if they end up as co-workers, smoldering grudges will seep into their work. Alto shrugs, agreeing that if it's just a meal, he's fine. Bond explodes with glee and yells, "Great, let's go right now." They pull up to the restaurant. Bond points at the door and grins. This is the place. He mentions the chef's an acquaintance and darts over to flash a quick hello. 1 hour later, Bond leans in and asks if the meal lived up to expectations. Alto's expectations explode. He admits the food here is on another level. Alto presses them to rest up for tomorrow, and Bond instantly backs him. Alto forces out a strained nod, slips outside alone, clinging to the wild relief that he'd somehow made it back. Mid-bite, nausea slammed into him like a freight train. He rips through the page, suspicion flaring. Did Bond do something to him? Alto tries to tell himself it's only a cold, but his head reels with dizziness. Vertigo slams him and chills rake through his bones. At the exam arena, someone snaps. Alto's late, and that's shocking because he's always the one to move first, not the guy who shows up at the last second. Alto explodes into view, towering over the crowd as Mia's voice slices through the roar, calling his name. Her eyes widened at the ghostly pallor of his face, and she blurted, "What's wrong?" Alto confesses he looks like he's caught a cold, but brushes it off and insists he's fine. He can still fight somehow. Mia insists she's never seen Alto this wrecked before. He's not okay, not even close. She tells him to please report to Captain Arthur and plead to have his turn pushed down so he can finally get some rest. Alto falters, jaw tightening. Once he's a knight, he can't pause for sickness, and this trial is the test that will decide if he becomes one. Captain Arthur bellows, "I'll reveal the first-round matchups now." Captain Arthur thundered the first-round matchup, the Altamia Nitri team. Charged headfirst into battle against the Bon Gregory Barnes team. Someone in the crowd snaps to attention, it's the first match, and Alto won't get a single moment's rest. Someone shouted, Alto now faces Bon, who's already gunning for him, and Gregory, the one Mia couldn't beat. Mia reels, jaw snapping open, eyes blown wide the moment the announcement lands. Alto vows to Mia they'll make it, despite his condition. Mia snaps, "You're going to prove your father wrong." She snaps back a jubilant confirmation, practically buzzing with excitement. The two teams square off in the arena as Alto hunches over, clearly unwell and clawing to stay upright. Gregory sauntered over, his voice a theatrical sneer that mocked every word. She snaps, "You okay, Alto?" then forces a brittle fake laugh at his condition. A chill rips through Alto as the pieces click into place. Gregory was in on whatever Bond did to him. The official's voice booms across the arena. The match begins now. Bond explodes into attack, unleashing a blazing fire lance, and Gregory barrels in to join the assault. Their combined magic detonates against the arena floor in a thunderous blast, hurling dust and debris skyward. Mia's voice rips out of her as she pleads, "Alto, defend yourself." And Alto, so ravaged by weakness he couldn't even summon a. Battered and barely standing, they wrench a massive wall of ice from the earth that explodes upward, slamming into the oncoming attacks just in time. Alto rattles out an apology to Mia between desperate gasps. Every inhale a battle, he's reached his limit. Mia asks if he's all right, concern crackling in her voice, but her question cuts off mid-syllable. Gregory laughed, confidence crackling in his voice, and declared, "This is going to be easy." Without hesitation, he casts Fireball Rain, unleashing a storm of blazing projectiles that blanket the entire arena and barrels straight for Alto and Mia's position. Mia roars, unleashing Hailshot and blasting the arena with a relentless volley of jagged ice bolts. Alto, drained and barely standing, forces out a ragged grunt and somehow triggers Fireball X-16. A titanic volley of blazing spheres rains across the battlefield while Mia's. From the opposite side, Maria unleashes a freezing gale that floods the air, and when the spells slam together, the arena floor detonates in a chain of explosions. Alto chokes out a raw thank you to Mia for her support. She shoots back that he's always been the one to help her, so now she'll be the one to help him. A spectator's shout rips through the air just as one opponent lunges. A brutal blow catapults someone across the arena. Mia spots the danger in a heartbeat. The enemies are closing in a pincer. She barks that they'll have to split up and fight separately. Meanwhile, one of their opponents unleashes sand press, and towering earthen constructs erupt from the ground to encircle them. An onlooker's jaw drops. Alto just pulled off an advanced skill, and despite his weakened state, he strains to activate the fire advanced lance. A storm rages inside him, but his drained body can't draw in the mana he needs. Mia cries out for Alto, worry burning in her voice, then her call rips into a scream as the danger surges. Alto is slammed by a brutal, bone-jarring strike. Gregory bellows, commanding his spell to pulverize them. Alto's eyes snap wide as the technique locks into place. His mana bleeding out, he clenches his jaw and unleashes it because there's no other option. A titanic explosion rips through the arena. From above, the impact rips open a monstrous crater. Alto is right at its heart. Alto slumps to the ground, bloodied and broken. Someone yells that he somehow dodged a direct hit, but still took brutal damage. A text box flashes that auto magic stands in for a mono circuit, and the mono, a skill forges, depends on the user's condition. In the game, Gregory sneers at Alto, taunting what's wrong, and unleashes a sand shot. Alto grunted through each clash, twisting and lunging to barely dodge the scorching arcs of incoming fireballs. If this turns into a war of attrition, they'll lose. Alto grits his teeth through searing pain, barely clinging to consciousness and not knowing when the darkness will take him. He plots every move to keep Mia from ever being forced into a 2-on-1 fight. Alto's face hardens into stone. He vows to take Gregory down even if it costs him his life. In the background, Mia keeps trading blows with her own opponent as Alto snaps a command, forcing his spell to activate the fire lance. Gregory's jaw dropped as a titanic assault barreled toward him. Cold terror slammed him. Only a high-level skill could stop it. Desperation claws at Gregory as he unleashes sand press to shield himself. The two colossal spells slam together in a deafening explosion, a shockwave tearing across the arena floor. A voice from the crowd cuts through the chaos. Did those attacks just cancel each other out? Alto slams a second fire lance into action, its blaze roaring to life. Bond's blood runs cold as realization slams into him. There's a second one. Gregory screams as a colossal fire spell crashes into him, erupting in a deafening, bone-shattering explosion. A single strike catapults Gregory across the arena. Bond's voice thunders. Gregory is incapacitated. Mia froze, jaw dropping in disbelief. As the crowd went silent, Alto, poisoned and barely standing, had just toppled top-ranked Gregory. Someone in the crowd smirked, already knowing this was exactly what Alto would do. Then the scene jolts to Alto sprawled on the ground, with another figure standing nearby. The announcer's voice ripped through the arena. Alto is down. Bond bursts into laughter, admitting Alto had him terrified for a heartbeat. Bond flashes a grin and jeers that it's over for Mia, sneering that she's nothing but a loser. Strip away her buddy Alto and she crumbles, unable to so much as lift a finger. The arena crackled as Alto lay crumpled on the ground, and Mia planted herself over him like a living shield, daring anyone to come closer. She scoffed a sharp, dismissive snort. Meanwhile, Bond's jaw tightens as he remembers the plan. He and Gregory would drain Alto's stamina, strike him down the instant he weakened, then take Mia out with ease. None of it happened. Bond snarls, jeering that a loser like Mia is nothing, and he can take her down all by himself, then conjures a blazing fire lance. Mia conjures a towering wall of ice to shield them, but she staggers as power floods her, far stronger than before. Bond ramped up his taunts, sneering that she hadn't earned a single emblem and that trying now was utterly pointless. He roared, "You won't win if all you do is defend." Mia steels herself, certain she can't lose. This time it's not just her future. Alto's path to knighthood hangs on her. Bond explodes into a savage onslaught, every strike crashing like thunder. He sneered, calling Mia's magic, mana, and skills laughably weak, then declared it was time to show her the difference in class. His fire lance barrage rips through Mia's ice defenses, shattering them into glittering fragments with brutal, overwhelming force. A gasp rips through the air. Someone realizes Bond just used 5 intermediate skills at once. Mia stands frozen, shock glued to her face as the crowd's reactions blur into a distant wash behind her. Her hands snap into tight fists, trembling. Her current skill set betrays her. She can't possibly win, and her dream is about to be crushed right here. Bond bellows, "See you later, loser." and another massive attack barrels straight toward me. She spots a chilling detail. One projectile has locked on and is racing straight for her. The attack slams into someone, ripping them off their feet as they skid across the arena floor. The warning screams too late. Anyone who snatches an intermediate skill without a barrier will, at best, be left seriously injured, at worst. The blast catapults Mia backward as a voice rips out, Alto. The camera rips back, unveiling the colossal arena hall as the entire battle erupts across its thunderous expanse. Mia's thoughts snap into a flashback. She was at the aptitude ceremony when Alto was branded a no-skill. Hopelessness clung to him as he swayed on unsteady feet. She blurted his name on impulse, but he never heard her and walked away. Both were born into noble houses, yet magic barely answered their call. 6 months later, they'd exiled that same kid from his home, and she spotted him training alone in the forest's depths. A flicker of kinship ignited in her. Both had been branded burdens and shoved aside like nuisances. She fought on with weaker magic, and a life carved from crueler trials than hers. A fierce light still burned in Alto's eyes. Mia, always the one everyone pitied, constantly smothering those around her with anxious care. A surge of emotion hit her as he pressed on without a hint of wavering, and before she knew it, admiration had seized her. On meager wages, he poured every ounce of himself into the job and cut loose any teammate who dared insult him. His stamina was spent long ago, yet he kept grinding through brutal solo training. Mia's thoughts ignited. She couldn't slack off living in better circumstances than Alto, so spurred by him, she plunged into relentless training and fought tooth and nail to close the gap. She trained alone, pushing herself to the brink until she snatched a ticket to the Royal Knight Academy. For 3 relentless years after enrolling, she drove herself ragged under constant mockery. That grind left no room for rest. Then, when she spotted him at the briefing for the night selection exams, her heart slammed against her ribs. He unleashed impossible skill, and she staggered as it hit her. He wasn't just better. He was someone from another world entirely. As everyone hailed him, joy erupted in her chest while a cold loneliness sank into her bones. She tore a lifetime of courage into a single breath to talk to him, now her classmate, and she even blurted shameless questions at him. Kindness shone in him, and even with a troubled brow, he mulled things over with fierce sincerity. His presence burned at the center of her heart. She refused to crack no matter what struck her and kept staring straight ahead. No matter what knocked her down, she sprang back to her feet. This time the roles flipped. She charged into the fray and dragged him to safety. Mia rocketed down the ice slide, her eyes blazing with determination she would reach him. Mia's ice magic collides with Bond's attack in a thunderous clash, detonating a colossal eruption of raw magical energy. Bond roars at her to mind her own business, spitting that Alto's a half-dead bastard as the collision rips a shockwave through. Shockwaves ripped through the arena as the two forces collided with bone-crushing fury. Up close, Alto sees he can land the strike, but it's a razor-thin, deadly gamble. Mia gritted her teeth. This has to be the end, and she'll throw herself in front of anything to protect Alto. She unleashes Spell Shot, a searing bolt of arcane energy hurtling straight toward Bond's dark energy sphere. Magic detonates as Mia's Dispel Shot rips into Bond's seething dark energy sphere, sparks and shockwaves shredding the air. Bond staggers back, eyes wide as shock rips through him like a punch to the gut. Spectators' jaws dropped as the technique blinked out, erased as if it had never existed. Bond had swaggered in, certain the victory was his, convinced his magic towered above all. Now he gapes, disbelief burning through him at what's unfolding. Now Bond feels a radical shift. He realizes his magic obeys his every thought, and raw strength roars to life inside him. Rage consumes him. He bellows at Mia that she should know her place and should be dead already. The two lunged, unleashing another brutal attack. Fighters trade blazing magical projectiles, each spell screaming and scorching its path across the arena. Glowing spheres of magic hurtle through the air between them as the battle intensifies. They rush together, plunging into ruthless hand-to-hand combat. Mia locks onto the opening and growls, "At this range, my Dispel Shot won't miss." She hones in on the dark sphere and unleashes a searing blast straight at it. Bond lets out a raw cry as his barrier rips open, stuck staring in horror while his last defense shatters into dust. An official's voice booms across the hall. "Mia Knightley and Alto, you're the winners." Mia lunged to Alto's side, shaking him and shouting for him to wake, desperate to drag him back to consciousness. When someone shouts that the antidote will neutralize the poison Alto was given, they shove it into his hands so relief hits him instantly. Alto clasps everyone's hands, voice raw with thanks for their help. Then his face crumples and he chokes out an apology the moment he learns about the poison. Suddenly someone in the crowd erupts, accusing Mia of outright cheating, snarling that it's absurd for a failure to suddenly surge in power, and claiming someone buffed her the moment Alto went down. Every onlooker watched Mia ignite a magic control buff, already pulsing before Alto went down, and Alto knew with a cold certainty that something was wrong. The observer proclaimed it clean, everything by the book, and not a trace that Alto had activated any skill afterward. Bon explodes in disbelief, shouting that Alto never activated a single strengthening skill while facing them. Duke Wilo's voice exploded from the stands, bellowing that it was impossible for that to happen in a single instant. Someone explains that even if Alto did cast a buff, Mia still crushed Bon with the raw strength she forged through relentless training, and they add that neither Bon nor his team could measure up to Alto or Mia. Then the accusation boomerangs, slamming into the accuser when someone drops a bombshell, exposing Bond as the one who cheated. Bond's voice stutters as he fires frantic denials, swearing he hasn't the faintest clue what they're talking about and declaring the cheating accusation impossible. Officials blew the lid off the case. They'd already confirmed Bond masterminded the sabotage, and someone carried it out on orders from him and his father. Bond lashes out, denying everything with fierce desperation. Every accusation a lie, and he swears he has no idea what they're talking about. Officials keep pressing, declaring Bond was pocketing money from Countbourne, and they've traced exactly how he got his hands on the poison used on Alto. Bond writhes, pinned tight in unforgiving restraints. The official roared that a man who seeks knighthood but poisons his opponent must pay with his life. He snapped the order to haul Bond away, and Bond screamed, pleading desperately for them to stop. Alto watches, eyes razor-sharp, wondering why Bond went to such extremes to eliminate him, and admits he can't pity Bond after all he's done. Bond's cry rips out of him, "Father, help," as rough hands haul him away. Captain Arthur steps forward, apologizes to Alto, then drops a brutal confession. He knew Alto had been poisoned and deliberately refused to intervene. He reveals he orchestrated it to drag Alto's true power into the open and watch how he'd dismantle a conspiracy. Alto owns up to letting the poison take him so easily, and Arthur nods, praising how Alto met the threat head-on. Then we see Alto weld his teammates into an unstoppable force and propel them to victory. He thunders that Alto has earned the emblem of team strength. Alto thanks him, every word burning with earnest gratitude. Arthur rips the silence open and calls out to me next. He blurts he's heard her unique skill is supposedly worthless in practice, a trick with no real use, and Mia quietly confirms it's true. Arthur proclaims she trusted her own strength and never stopped charging forward to reach this moment, then pins the emblem of effort on her. The moment the recognition landed in her hands, Mia's face exploded into stunned, tear-soaked disbelief. Captain Arthur stepped forward, fixed Alto with a blazing stare, and thundered, "Thank you for your service." He points out how, when a trusted comrade fell, Alto hurled himself into the crisis, crushed the challenge with a brilliant counter, and flipped the whole battle on its head. The captain strides forward and pins an emblem onto Alto, the emblem of adaptability, now his. Born a noble, Alto never sneered at his commoner allies. He stood by his comrades to his last breath, and by drawing on their strength, he unleashed a power that shattered every limit. Their mentor pins them with a fiery stare and says, "You're far from perfect, but I'm counting on you." Mia accepts the team's spirit emblem, tears springing to her eyes, hoists it aloft and keeps thanking them until her voice cracks. A watching woman beams and congratulates Mia, exclaiming, "This is the reward for every ounce of effort you've poured in." Mia whirls to Alto, eyes blazing, and snaps, "It's all thanks to you." Alto's shout slices through the hubbub as he screams, "Mia," and jabs a finger at a figure in the crowd. Mia's gaze snaps to her father standing there. She edges closer and whispers his name. She roars, "I've become a knight." Count Nader's voice iced the room as he snapped, "Is that so?" Then brushed it off, saying the Nader family had nothing to do with it and coldly telling her to do whatever she wanted. Alto lunges to Mia, voice fierce as he tells her father simply can't honestly claim he's counting on her. A nearby onlooker replies with a shaky, hesitant agreement. Alto presses on, admitting he gets it. His own father wasn't that way either, and the memory of his father's eyes the day he walked out still haunts him. Mia pauses for a heartbeat, a hopeful spark lighting her face as she imagines just how nice that would be. Her voice crackles with fierce resolve as she vows to push herself beyond every limit until her father finally acknowledges her. A month had crawled by since that brutal night selection exam. Alto and Mia stride side by side in their new night uniform, moonlight carving their silhouettes. Mia bursts out she never expected to land in Alto's squad, and Alto flashes a grin and agrees. Shock slammed into him when the news hit. New knights are normally parceled out one per unit. They drop the bomb. This case isn't ordinary, it's a freshly formed unit, raised under the princess's direct command, the 7th Royal Guard. The captain, Captain Arthur, a genius anointed captain younger than anyone in history, so there must be a special reason they assembled this unit. Alto was still reeling from the revelation when Lily burst into sight, shredding the silence with a raw cry of his name. Alto's gaze snaps to her. He recognizes her instantly, it turns out. Lily just got drafted into the 7th Royal Guard, too. Lily beams at Alto and practically shouts that she's thrilled to be on the same team as him. Alto beams, voice bursting with joy, "I'm happy, too." Alto steps forward, introducing the two girls and telling Mia, "This is Lily, my childhood friend." Lily dips into a crisp, polite bow and states her name while Mia serves as Lily's junior at the academy. Mia tenses, forces a tight smile, and admits, "Nice to meet you, I already know about Lily." Lily's eyes blaze as she drops the bomb. She's known about Mia since the aptitude ceremony. Alto declares Mia his comrade. She took the exam at his side and passed. When someone asks if that means Mia is a rookie like Alto, Lily lights up, bursts out that she's thrilled to work together, thrusts her hand forward for a handshake, and Mia just stands there, frozen and wide-eyed. Shock slammed into me. Alto had a childhood friend and nobody told me. They're outside talking when a new voice rips through the air and shouts, "Are you the new recruits?" An older man with blonde, wavy hair and a mustache strides forward in a formal knight uniform. Alto sizes him up mid-30s at a glance, clearly Lily's senior, then strides forward and declares, "I'm Alto. I've been assigned to the 7th Guard starting today." Mia steps forward and drops her name, just Mia. Lily proclaims her name too, then. The older man strides forward and booms, "I am Count Frankie Guilford, head of the Count's house and a member of the 7th Guard." Someone snaps that it's freakishly rare for a knight of a Count's household to be serving in person. Lily fires, "Is he this year's top recruit?" And Alto smirks inside, so even recruits score knight uniforms. Count Frankie strides forward, declares the knight's post idolized, asks who'll sign up as his top recruit, says he feels their excitement, and warns the knight's work won't be easy. Alto's eyes snap wide when Frankie blurts they're the Arthur squad. And then Frankie suddenly announces he knows it's sudden, but he must see if they can handle being in the 7th Royal Guard. Count Frankie roared, "I'll show you the true strength of a real knight." Someone's size looms, and Alto stares, furious and baffled, wondering why it always ends up like this. The narration drops the bomb. It's a mock battle, and the two lock eyes across the distance. Count Frankie barked the rules. This is an old-school duel. One strike decides it. If the opponent even nicks Alto's barrier, Alto loses instantly. Alto snaps a sharp nod, jaw tightening as he recognizes the rules. Then Count Frankie roars he'll strike first and unleashes. His dragon breath explodes into a colossal blast that devours the area as Alto watches. My jaw dropped as Frankie unleashed a high-tier technique in the blink of an eye. He isn't done. He slashes with his sword, seizes the opening, and rips into a devastating combo. The dragon's searing breath and a crushing sword strike slam together, detonating in an earth-shattering explosion. Count Frankie freezes, eyes wide, as his strike is suddenly blocked. He's sure his attack should have outrun Alto's reflexes and can't fathom how it was stopped. Count Frankie's eyes widened. If that had been a mid-tier skill like hail shot, his fire lance would have cleaved straight through. Alto collapses, broken, as he watches them rip through his barrier and pierce his fire lance. The Count couldn't believe it. Blinded, Alto still unleashed a flawless counter fueled by advanced 1 power or higher. Alto pored over the auto-defense script he stitched together after the last match. The code automatically locks onto any fire or water that crosses a set range, fires a counterspell to repel the strike, and the moment the defense triggers it automatically unleashes a hail shot. Count Frankie storms over and snaps, "What are you doing, Alto?" And he stammered, insisting he was just. Another voice snaps, "Was Frankie trying to baptize the rookie?" Then shrugs it off with a bored whatever. Captain Arthur strides forward and booms that, as of today, he is the captain of the 7th Royal Guard, their new superior. Count Frankie smirked, declaring they've already wrapped up the introductions. Arthur snaps they're heading straight to work now, first stop, meeting their superior. He bellows, "Follow me," to everyone. The group strode through the royal palace's gilded halls, each step ringing through the vast interior. Alto's eyes snap to the path. Deja vu floods him, every bend screaming that he's walked this way before. They surge up to the ornate doors, 2 guards standing watch. The doors roar open, and a figure in white robes materializes the instant the group steps through. Out of nowhere, Princess Charlotte burst into a bright, joyful cry for Alto. Alto froze, cheeks burning, and stammered, "It's been a while." The princess erupts into cheers, declaring, "From today you're a knight," as she reaches out to grasp his hand. Off to the side, Lily and Mia gaped, breath caught as Alto, and the princess slipped into that all-too-familiar dance. Alto fumbles a sheepish thank you, face flushed, and Princess Charlotte flashes a triumphant grin, crowing that this was a dream that would never have come true without her recommendation. She slammed her fist down and roared that barring someone as gifted as Alto from knighthood would be an unforgivable outrage. Lily snaps at Alto, "Don't be rude to the princess," and Mia meekly agrees, her voice trembling. Someone else pipes up and backs Alto. He's absolutely right to be grateful. Count Frankie flashes a courteous bow, slicing through their chatter and firmly urging them to get to the point. The princess is busy. With a decisive nod, they declare, "Time to dive into the main topic." Princess Charlotte bursts into the story of how the 7th Royal Guard was born, declaring it a brand new unit that answers directly to her as princess. And Mia nods, admitting she's sure everyone just learned that. The princess presses on. Conflict isn't just brewing in the court, it's already smoldering beneath the surface. Princess Charlotte cut the air with one blunt sentence: "This is a battle for the throne." She drops the bomb. The crown prince, the throne's heir, still hasn't been chosen, and the contenders are her and Charlotte, the king's firstborn. And she knocks her younger brother, Richard, flat. A diagram sprawls across the table, the king at the top. The queen named the first legitimate heir, the king's mistress next, and Prince Richard marked as the second child born out of wedlock. Alto studies it as Charlotte snaps that the succession has turned into a tangled nightmare. Princess Charlotte drops a bombshell. The king plans to anoint her as crown prince. Minister Walo, who wields the court's supreme power, throws her full weight behind her younger brother, Richard, turning her into a direct political rival to the minister. Alto's gaze snaps. It's Walo, the very minister who'd been talking with Bond just moments earlier. Charlotte snarled that Minister Walo will stop at nothing. He'll use any means to get what he wants. When enemies set their sights on her, she forged the unit to call in protection the instant danger struck. Princess Charlotte roared that from this moment, she'll ramp up every move to secure her succession to the throne. She won't stand by, and let Minister Wilo seize the nation's core. Count Frankie smirks, eyes sweeping the hall, everyone, but the newcomers already knows the 3rd Royal Guard has been named Her Highness's escort. They knew the old plan wouldn't cut it, so they forged an unprecedented, razor-agile direct command force. From now on, command would flow through it. They'll be thrust into critical operations as Count Frankie bursts forward to announce an urgent mission that will decide the country's fate. They're the ones charged with carrying it out. He bellows that he hand-picked every member himself and will answer for every move they make. Lily flinches under the weight of it, and he lays out his selection. She earned their trust with skill, not palace politics. Alto once held a noble title but now walks as a commoner. Mia has almost no ties to the nobility. Skill forges them, but what truly matters is that they aren't shackled to Minister Walo's influence. Mia snaps that, as the Count family's chosen head, she's dragged into this entire mess. Count Frankie fires back that it's not about blood or title, it's decided purely by ability. Then he drops the truth bomb. Marrow flat out hates her, someone reels, Punch speechless by the brutal honesty. Count Frankie barrels on, declaring the minister's ire was earned by her smug smile and blunt tongue. Someone mutters he didn't have to explain it so harshly, and Mia goes slack, completely deflated by the verdict. Count Frankie roars that their guard mission kicks off tomorrow, no delays. Princess Charlotte boldly announces her plan. She'll leave the royal palace tomorrow and journey east to the city of Minton. A map unfurls, tracing the road from the palace gates all the way to Minton, and she names the 7th Royal Guard as their escort. Alto snaps back to Minton, the sprawling city where Lily went shopping before she entered the Knight Academy. He still marvels at its vastness, remembering the one trip he made there as a porter and how the whole place glittered with prosperity. Princess Charlotte drops the bomb. Their true mission is to win Duke Minton's cooperation. He's one of the most powerful nobles in the entire country. She snarls that at this rate, every last ally will desert her. In the grand hall, a booming voice ripped through the air, ordering everyone to begin preparing for their missions starting tomorrow. The guards snapped back a single, razor-sharp acknowledgement. From above, a hawk-eyed watcher tracks Captain Arthur as he strides through. They burst through the grand hallway and gasped when they spotted him there. Minister Wiro strides up and says he's heard Arthur just seized the captaincy of the princess's personal guard. Arthur swells with honor, thanks him for the praise, and congratulates the minister on his promotion. They use the proper title, Minister Wiro. And the captain, rigid in his formal uniform, stands like a taut wire after that tense encounter. Suddenly, Alto and the minister's gazes collided, locking into a long, crackling stare. The minister snaps at Alto, calling him Sir Weasley. Is something wrong? Did you spot someone you know? Arthur snapped, Nothing's wrong, minister. While Alto fell silent, turning his face away from his father's gaze. Alto locks his gaze ahead as a cold truth sinks in to the minister. He's nothing but a stranger now. He'd known it would come to this, but the truth still crashes over him. His father has abandoned him completely, and the realization shatters him. His father no longer considers him his son. Nearby, Lily and Mia stand frozen, bearing witness to the agonizing exchange, concern etched across their faces. Minister Wiro beams and chirps a bright, cheerful greeting straight at Arthur. He's burning to see him pull off even greater feats, as the knight orders genius. A voice begs Arthur not to push himself too hard. Arthur just shrugs, flashes a stubborn grin, and snaps, I'm fine. Count Frankie melted into the shadows behind them, eyes locked on the minister and his group as they walked down the hallway, silently memorizing every word and gesture of the exchange. Later, the scene snaps to a room inside the royal court. Long hair whipping behind her, she strode before the gathered conspirators and snapped, We've confirmed the lead on Minton. I'm leaving the capital myself before the day is out. The bespectacled man snaps, I'll send word to the active unit right away. And someone pleads, please do. Minister's intel just hit. The 7th Guard stepped in today, and they've greenlit the plan to roll out on schedule. The older man on the couch shoots back with a grin. Of course they will. The bespectacled man snaps, don't forget to prepare for the celebration, and someone immediately nods in agreement. A jolt runs through the older man. Only 3 days remain until the princess's beloved anniversary. The 3rd and 7th Royal Guards flank Princess Charlotte, racing through the shadowed forest toward Minton. Safety over speed, the group slips into the trees and hunkers down to camp for the night along the trail. At the campsite, Lily tells Mia she's glad to be on night watch with her because she feels safe and urges them to give it their all. Mia, voice trembling, stammers that it's nice to meet her. Lily confessed her stomach flipped guarding the princess, then forced a grin. This is a merchant road used non-stop, a stretch where monsters shouldn't appear. Mia stays planted in stoa, silent, as Lily leans in and asks, still uneasy. Alto blasted to the top of the selection exam. Lily herself towers as the most skilled among the young knights, and Frankie is a grizzled veteran. She watches Mia, heart hammering, trying to read if anxiety grips her, if Mia secretly doubts someone like her even belongs here. Mia's stomach dropped. She admitted to herself she still hadn't done a single thing. Lily beams, reminding Mia that Captain Arthur singled her out and thinks the world of her, then rattles off that Alto even said Mia might outwork him, is a flawless team player, and refuses to quit. Alto saw the hard worker nod to her. That single acknowledgement sparked a fierce, steady confidence inside her. Mia's memory snaps into place. If Alto says that about her, she'll stare it down and own it with unshakable confidence. She steels herself, certain it's the right choice. Lily shrugs and reveals she and Alto took the aptitude ceremony together, then looks to Mia for confirmation. Mia's face twists into a whirlpool of shock as she stammers. How does Lily know that? Lily grins and says not to worry, admits she slipped into check while Alto wasn't around, then bows her head and apologizes for keeping quiet about what she knew. Mia clamps her hand over her mouth and hisses, We're surrounded. A tense hush coils around it. Lily's eyes lock on a flicker among the trees, and a cold dread hits. She knows the forest is wrong. Even in the dead of night, the forest still breathes. Faint scuffles and rustles betray animals slipping through the shadows. The utter lack of it screams that something's up. A massive hellhound slides up beside her, a living shadow utterly soundless. Lily watched, breath snatched away, as the A-rank hellhound slid into being in absolute silence, just as she'd expected. The creature towers above them. Hellhounds converge into snarling packs, ruthless pecking orders snapping into place. The first to step forward is the lowest-ranking decoy. Someone explains that hellhounds can sniff out an enemy's strength and only hunt foes they know they can finish, so the lodging base with more people and stronger fighters is probably safe. I'll blast a path open. You hold your ground, fight like hell, and shout for everyone to rush in and help. Mia nods sharply as a snarling pack of hellhounds explodes from the darkness surrounding them. Lily flings her hand skyward and calls forth a holy sword that erupts in a blinding burst of radiant light. Lily erupts into a blinding pillar of light, hurling a massive beam straight into the hellhound. A blinding light rips open a jagged hole in their formation. Lily lunges and slashes at the creature with her sword, but the blade skids off its hide and doesn't cut through. Sparks explode as the blade slams into the hellhound's hide, armored like steel and impossible to pierce. She could usually cleave a hellhound's head clean off with a single strike. This beast was no ordinary hellhound. Lily zeroes in on its weak spot and lunges, driving her strike deep into its gaping mouth. She hurled herself into the hellhound's gaping jaws as its massive fangs snapped inches from her face. Multiple hellhounds surge in from every side, bearing down as the battle detonates into brutal chaos. A jolt hit me. Every single member of the pack possessed the decoy's iron-hard toughness. Mia roars Lily in alarm's name. The odds are mercilessly stacked against them. Lily unleashes Holy Barrier, a blazing ring of light snapping around her as the hellhounds lunge. As the battle rips through the forest clearing, a voice slices the chaos. Someone screams for Mia, warning she still can't unleash ice in every direction. Mia slams her palms out and conjures a towering ice wall that erupts from the ground, a jagged shield rising to protect her. Lily's Holy Barrier clamps around only her, leaving Mia wide open and vulnerable. The hellhounds press their attack, surging in a ferocious, relentless onslaught. Lily charges the hellhound, holy sword flashing. The blade connects with a thunderous impact, but the beast refuses to fall and the fight rages on. Alto barrels out of the forest, breathlessly apologizing for keeping them waiting, and Lily cries out the moment he appears. Alto admits the detection spell he'd flicked on as a last-minute precaution saved their skins, and Lily gasps that she's glad he showed up, because the hellhounds. Every strike slams into the barrier and never gets through. They snap that it's encased in a high-density barrier skill, just like an appraisal spell. Alto's jaw drops. He's never heard of a hellhound slamming up a barrier, and now they have to tear it down with one earth-shattering skill because there's no time to prep multiple large-scale spells. Alto hatches the plan. He'll bait it into looking his way. Mia will rip the barrier from its fur, and Lily will finish it for sure. He snaps, "Can we land a guaranteed dispel shot, one at a time?" Mia snaps, "I've got it." Alto shouts, "Move," and launches himself at the hellhound, sparking the team's coordinated assault. Alto barrels forward, baiting the creature into fixing its gaze on him. Mia gathers a crackling pulse of anti-magic, priming her dispel magic. The battle erupts into a blur as their plan snaps into place. Alto unleashes a dispel shot straight at the hellhound. The creature's barrier explodes apart. Lily lunges, her holy sword flashing as it finally slices through. They erupt into triumphant cheers and they press onward, executing their synchronized plan with relentless momentum. Alto bolts through the forest, racing back toward camp. At the lodging base, someone gasped, "It looks like the attack never reached our position." Count Guilford's gaze snaps to Alto as he returns barking, "We're not due for a shift change. What happened?" Alto snaps, "Captain." Malto snaps, "Someone's almost certainly sabotaging their journey." Count Guilford's mind snapped into place. And a class monster that had no business here had just appeared, its form cocooned behind a reinforced barrier. He snaps into command, roaring for everyone to wake, declares they were ambushed and have wiped out the enemy, and warns more could be coming. Before the next wave arrives, they must bolt now and race to Minton. He roars, "Advance on Minton now." The guards snap to action and fling the camp into a frantic mobilization. They crested the ridge and Minton Castle exploded into view. Its ramparts fanned out beneath them while the town sprawled like a toy below. Duke Minton strides in, his ornate ceremonial robes glinting with crosses, throws open his hands and welcomes them, thanking them for coming. A member of the group steps forward, gratitude blazing in their voice, and thanks the Duke for carving out time to meet them. Duke Minton waves it off with a wry grin, insisting it's no great honor for His Highness to visit the domain of an old provincial lord like him, then motions to a chair. "Sit, don't stand there talking." Duke Minton admits there's been a bit of trouble brewing lately. Monsters have swarmed the abandoned mines and tunnels where magic stones were dug up, crushing the townsfolk under fear and hardship. Adventurers once somehow kept them at bay. In the past few months, the monsters have exploded in strength, and extermination efforts are falling apart. They kept coming back empty-handed, every plan stalled, and he said they'd begged the city's Adventurers Guild for aid. The guild turned a blind eye. The Duke's voice dropped to ice. If these monsters matched the Hellhound's defense from yesterday, an average adventurer would be torn to pieces. Charlotte snaps, proposing they unleash her royal guards to hunt down and obliterate the monsters. Alto snaps to it. It's a straight swap. Solve another problem in exchange for bringing them into their faction, the classic noble bargaining trick, someone points out. Charlotte barks they'll send the 7th Royal Guard, led by Captain Arthur, one of their most skilled units. Duke Minton bristled, warning that move would jeopardize the safety of her beloved royal guard. Charlotte's steady voice cuts through his doubt. This time they've got more than enough people to spare. Duke Minton vows to station soldiers from his castle to shield the princess, and someone breathes a grateful thank you for the offer. Someone else warns that it'll leave their escort stretched thin. Charlotte snaps. What do you mean by that? And he points out the third royal guard is already stationed here, so the numbers aren't a problem. Alto's voice rings with gratitude as he thanks them for their cooperation. He barks they'll camp tonight to regain their strength, and at dawn they'll strike hard and force the monster to its knees. Duke Minton admits they've been traveling through the night until. He erupts, showering them with thunderous thanks for their tireless efforts. Later that night, Alto and Charlotte hunker down in her room, nursing steaming cups of tea. Charlotte beams, thanks Alto for coming on the trip, then fires. Did I just derail any plans you had by dragging you along? Alto shrugs it off. No, nothing, he says. He'd been resting in his room and drilling magic to gear up for tomorrow's battle. Alto snaps. You called me here because this is an urgent special mission, right? Charlotte snaps. This isn't a mission. She only wanted to hear what was in his head. Alto froze, eyes wide in shock, and Charlotte cried. Am I really doing the right thing? She proclaimed she'd poured every ounce of herself into helping the people of their country so far. Perched at the tea table, Charlotte unveils her whole creed. She vows to steer the nation so every citizen can taste a truly fulfilling life, duty burning in her chest and driving her forward. Charlotte remembers being born a princess from the very first breath, forced from day one to behave with dignity and meet endless expectations. People swarm around her, but every smile hollows her heart and makes it lonelier. Alto couldn't shake the thought. Maybe she had even spurned the princess title out of sheer restraint. Charlotte locks eyes with Alto and hurls the question straight at him. Does he think she should inherit the throne? Alto realizes in a flash. Depending on the answer, this question isn't a jest at all, but a blunt, make-or-break test of the subject. The princess before him freezes, not as royalty, but as a single girl named Charlotte. Her breath catches as she waits for an answer not from a subject, but from him as an individual. Alto confesses, voice raw, that the throne and the kingdom are a total mystery to him right now. Charlotte snaps that he's the eldest son of a marquis house, groomed and schooled for this. Doesn't he owe them a clearer answer? Alto grins, admitting it outright. If he were a retainer, he'd drop to one knee and proclaim her the one destined to be king. Alto declares he knows the right answer. He understands it firsthand because he was cast out of his own home. He roars that posts and officials are disposable, and if events move fast, even a king will be unseated within a few short years. Charlotte's silent stare locks onto him as Alto drives his point home. No stand-in, no fake, nothing can replace the real person. Charlotte closes her eyes and smiles, picturing Alto when the Marquis pulled their backing, shattered and convinced he was worthless, and she remembers her childhood friend reaching out and proving that lie wrong. Alto tells her that whether the crown lands on her head or slips away, it can't erase that Lady Charlotte dragged him back from the brink, and he's certain the people feel the same. He proclaims her feelings noble, urging her to own what she's done and hold her head high. Charlotte grips Alto's hand, thanks him for his honesty, and admits his candor only made her like him more. Alto clenches his jaw and vows he'll do everything to live up to her trust. Later, Charlotte pins her hopes on him for tomorrow's hunt, and Alto snaps that he'll make sure they come back victorious. After he leaves, Charlotte's cheeks flare as panic hits, and she realizes she let herself get totally swept up, and actually told him she liked him. The next day arrives, and monsters have appeared in both tunnel location. The unit splits into two groups to handle the situation. Frankie and Alto seize the southern tunnel while Charlotte Mia, and Lily storms the eastern tunnel, seizing it outright. The operation ignites on a single command: respond with lightning speed and surgical precision. In the south tunnel, Frankie stakes his claim as the new leader. Alto better start listening to him. He smirks that Alto actually proved useful while Frankie was away. Frankie snarls a warning. From here on, packs of monsters will descend that even struggling adventurers gasp at, so this isn't the easy ride Alto imagines. Alto's eyes harden as he snaps, I understand. Frankie leans in, voice sharp, and says he's watched too many people freeze the moment it counted and stand rooted, unable to move. Talent counted for nothing. Some charged into their very first mission and never came back. He snaps at Alto to speak up the instant he thinks the situation's gone bad. Frankie won't let the mission be dragged down. Alto roared, determination igniting as he vowed he'd give it everything he had. Before we could blink, a monster had already crashed into view. Frankie's eyes snag on its silhouette, then the truth snaps into place. It's just an E-rank goblin, he gapes, baffled. He'd heard these monsters were lethal, so what the hell is happening? Frankie starts second-guessing. Maybe Captain Arthur would have been the better pick. As the goblin lurches forward, Frankie's gaze snaps to a weird detail in its outfit, and he finds himself thinking, could this be some kind of special model? Frankie scoffs, eyes flashing. So these monsters are weak after all. Alto conceded the creature didn't feel like a normal goblin, off, but not overtly powerful. Frankie guessed the town's adventurers lost because they couldn't pierce the monster's clothing. Alto realizes it felt like a trash monster that didn't even force him to use his skills, while Frankie's gut screams that the whole situation is off. An hour after they entered the tunnel, a massive spider-like monster burst into view right in front of them. Frankie barked they'd already wiped out about 10 of these things, yet the tunnels kept plunging deeper. Alto muttered, "This is literally a dungeon." After toppling the monster, Alto snaps that the number of encounters is unnaturally high. The farther they press on, the more monsters swarm. Frankie nods, saying it feels like someone planted them here on purpose. This isn't a dungeon where monsters just pop into existence. Every creature here was planted on purpose, like living traps. Alto's eyes snag a red flag. The map shows a pristine, well-kept road that's not on their route, and the path ahead is already starting to give way. Alto roars to Frankie, "Multiple monsters up ahead, and these ones are way tougher." Frankie fires back that it's perfect. They've only been small fries so far, and he didn't get a chance to show off. Alto confirms he's ready. Frankie smirks. The stronger they are, the more he'll savor taking them down. This mission is ruthless. Annihilate the monsters. They barrel deeper into the tunnel. They come face to face with a colossal behemoth and Alto snarls the name, King Lizardman, an A-rank nightmare whose raw strength and lightning speed steamroll any ordinary lizardman. Frankie catalogs the boss-tier threats in this mid-scale dungeon. Hellhounds earn A-rank for pack precision. These guys, a rank each, solo killers. Alto peers down the tunnel and freezes. 7 of them crouch there, waiting. Frankie smirks and taunts, "Getting cold feet, Alto." Alto snaps that if Frankie says the word, he'll fight this instant. Frankie snaps at him, warning him he already knows this. But he steeled himself, refusing to lower his guard for even a heartbeat as the battle raged. Alto steels himself, every muscle coiled, as the King Lizard men start to close in. Frankie roars he'll finish this with a single shot, then unleashes Dragon's Breath, a searing, devastating blast that rips through everything in its path. A brutal, master-level strike aimed to punch through any barrier. Frankie roars, "This is the end." A titanic blast of arcane energy slams into the King Lizardman. Frankie reels in disbelief. His ace skill didn't even dent their armor. Alto's eyes snapped wide. It's the same hellhounds they fought before, every beast cloaked in a crackling, impenetrable barrier. Frankie roars, urging them to push through, shouting that his attack has the barrier teetering on the brink of shattering. They surge forward, relentless in their assault. They smash the magic wards to splinters and crash into the King Lizardmen in savage close-quarters combat. Alto and Frankie rip through the King Lizardmen, their strikes detonating like thunderclaps, shattering scales and cutting the monsters down. The battle rages on as enemies spill up ahead, and Frankie locks onto the next wave barreling toward them. The battle rages on as King Lizardmen topple one after another, their ranks thinning with every strike. Frankie roars it's nothing he can't handle, then his grin drops. 5 more are still waiting. He howls Alto, desperate to know if he's okay. He grits his teeth, convinced that even Alto, the class ace, can't expect a rookie to handle this. The last King Lizardmen shuddered, buckled, and crumbled into broken heaps on the ground. Frankie's eyes exploded open in disbelief as Alto sizes up the scene, utterly calm, and says he thinks that's everyone. Frankie gapes, disbelief burning in his eyes as he thinks, who the hell is this guy? Alto scoffs at the gap in their aptitude results, daring anyone to care. Alto snaps that monsters still lurk ahead and rips the map open to check. He locks eyes on an A-rank monster perched right there. At this pace, they'll slam into the deepest part in no time. Frankie exploded, vowing to show Alto how to master a brutal foe. Hell, bring on an S-rank. He'll face it head-on. The 2 of them plunged deeper into the tunnel system. At last they burst into a vast, cavernous chamber. A circular opening yawned overhead, spilling daylight in from outside. The corpse of an enormous monster sprawls across the ground, utterly defeated. Frankie gaped as they spilled out into a sprawling, cavernous expanse. Alto's jaw drops and he stares straight ahead, shock rooting him to the spot. Deep in the tunnel, a gargantuan dragon looms, twice the size of any he's ever seen. Frankie pieces it together. It's been siphoning mana from the magic stones left in the mine, and that's probably what's happening. It screams tampering. Someone deliberately enlarged it. The titanic armor-plated dragon zeroes in and bellows. Who the hell are you? The dragon locks onto the incoming attack and bellows again, scoffing that this soldier could be some kind of elite fighter, and Frankie launches a scorching fireball straight at the massive creature. The explosion ripped through the air, slamming into the dragon and engulfing it in roaring flames and choking smoke. The dragon absorbed the strike and snapped back upright, roaring in defiance. A guttural growl ripped out of them, the warning that their attack was seconds away. The colossal beast lunged full speed at Alto and Frankie, its hulking mass bulldozing toward them with freight train force. Frankie erupted, spewing a scorching torrent of dragon breath while out. Alto slams the switch and ignites the fire lance, flame roaring into a spear of searing heat. Fighters unleashed their most devastating offensive spells in perfect unison, bolts of raw magic ripping across the sky toward the charging dragon. Two devastating spells barrel toward the dragon, collide overhead, and detonate in a cataclysmic blast that rips into its scales. When the smoke cleared exactly as he'd predicted, the creature stood unmarked, not a single scratch, and Alto's breath caught at the dragon's impenetrable defenses. The dragon sneers, taunting that fools like them can't hurt it with attacks like that, and Alto snaps into action, barking at Frankie to focus all fire on one spot, the base of the dragon's right leg. Frankie snaps to the plan. If this hits, they can blast the barrier and wrench off one of its legs. Alto snaps, understood, and nods. He's locked onto the plan. They lock eyes, snap into perfect sync, and unleash a brutal, coordinated assault. Frankie bellowed, fire away, an Alto response, as they both slam a concentrated strike dead center into the exact same pinpoint. They unleash a focused barrage that pummels the dragon's leg. Frankie roars, "This thing's way too tough." Alto spits a curse, furious that their focused assault still hasn't cracked the barrier. Frankie's eyes snap to the dragon as it coils to unleash a savage counterattack. A voice roars for Alto to unleash every ounce of defensive magic he's got. The dragon's devastating counterstrike comes crashing down as Frankie screams, the sound ripped from his throat by its crushing power. The dragon's counterattack slams into them with unstoppable force, the blast detonating and engulfing everything. The hexagonal barrier grid splintered into glittering shards as the massive impact slammed into it. The blast ripped into Alto, flinging him backward, and Frankie shouted, "Is the newbie okay?" Alto shakes off the hit, his face snapping into razor focus as he realizes this power dwarfs his own. He must take it down before the barrier is completely destroyed. Alto coiled like a spring, dark energy snarling around him, then hurled a cataclysmic counterstrike back at the dragon. The battle erupts as Alto rockets and twists between the dragon's savage strikes, narrowly escaping blow after blow while Frankie watches tensely from afar. A voice cuts through the chaos, screaming to the newbie as explosions rattle the whole area. Frankie spits a torrent of curses, rage cracking in his chest as he realizes the gap is too wide for him to reach the fight. Explosions tear the sky as the dragon hammers its assault, and Frankie stares in horror. The barrier lies shattered. Alto can feel death at his heels. One more hit and he's finished. So he roars his incantations, slamming up an ice wall and instantly hurling a lance of fire. Their combined magic slams into the dragon, detonating in a cataclysmic blast. At last, a barrage of explosive strikes ripped its defenses apart. The dragon's roar blasts at Alto, yanking his gaze with a thunderous command. "Don't you dare ignore me." Its massive eye blazes with malice as it lashes out, tearing the air with raw fury. Alto responds, rapidly conjuring an ice wall and unleashing a searing fire lance once more. A storm of spells slammed into the dragon, detonating in a titanic blast of raw magical power. Alto rocketed at the dragon, a lightning streak tearing through the sky. He unleashes a merciless onslaught, pummeling the creature again and again. Alto presses his advantage, each strike pummeling the dragon with devastating force as the beast reels, hit after hit carving fresh damage across its body. Alto claws his composure into place as the dragon keeps locking its sights on him. He pins it down, instinct or cold cunning, and the creature knows he's weakened and exposed. Pressure crushes him as reality slams in. One more direct hit and it's over. No time to recast the barrier, yet Alto refuses to yield. There has to be a clue, a lifeline, anything to pull us out of this. At the split second everything hung in the balance, a system notification blasted into Alto's vision. His auto-magic surged to a new level, and a brand new skill unlocked, ready for him to unleash. Alto's breath hitched as he locked onto the blazing notification. Auto magic had just surged to level 30. The required experience shot into the stratosphere. He'd completely forgotten leveling even existed. Alto shouts to Frankie, voice cracking, Can lock the dragon's gaze long enough to steal a few precious moments. He snatches a scent ball from his pouch, a dense, irresistible bait monsters crave, and lights it, letting a tempting plume flood the air. Frankie hurls a fireball that instantly sets it ablaze, ripping into Alto and shouting he should have handed this over sooner. Alto apologizes, steels himself, and says there may be a way to break through this. The dragon snorts derisively as it charges, and Frankie grins, declaring that Alto has finally learned to rely on his own strength. The dragon rockets forward in a savage assault, its massive claws slashing straight for Frankie's position. Frankie charges the dragon and meets it head-on. His face burned with fierce determination as he snapped at Alto not to just say a little. He'd keep this up for hours if he had to. The dragon lunges for the hurled ball as Frankie's thoughts snap to Alto. Alto locks his gaze on the system notification right in front of him. The simultaneous activation count surged, instant scripting unlocked in a flash, and a notification erupted. Level 30 reached. He unleashed instant scripting and slammed his simultaneous activation count up to 32. Alto's pulse spikes as he realizes this ability, already stronger than a high-level skill even before, could erupt into off-the-charts firepower with this upgrade. Alto's voice ripped through the air as he called to Frankie, apology pouring out for keeping him waiting. With a razor-sharp edge in his voice, he declares he's about to unleash a raw, high-powered skill he's never used before. It could misfire, so he yells for Frankie to be careful. Frankie snaps back, voice sharp. He wasn't waiting, it's only been like 5 minutes. Frankie's worry spikes. He's floored that after flaunting that absurd, reality-defying power, Alto somehow cranks it up even further. Alto drops into a crouch, thrusts his hands forward, and sparks his fire lance roaring to life. Without warning, a colossal lance of fire blasts from Alto's position, far bigger than anything seen before, its spell shredding the air with raw, brutal power. Frankie's jaw drops. He's never seen a fire lance this massive. A colossal lance of fire slammed into the dragon, battering it with earth-shattering force. The strike rips clean through the creature's defenses like they're made of paper. Alto roars for one more shot on the spot, relentless and refusing to give an inch. Alto's spell erupts in an earth-shattering blast, rocketing the dragon backward. The barrage shredded its massive body, pulverizing it until it gave way. Alto rammed his colossal fire lance into the dragon again, the impact exploding with earth-shattering force. A colossal spell rips through the creature's defenses, detonating like a thunderclap that shatters the air around them. A thunderous explosion devours the dragon's body, and the colossal beast skids backward, slammed by the attack's crushing force. Meanwhile, Frankie freezes, eyes wide, as a tidal wave of destruction sweeps the landscape before him. Frankie watches, his old jealousy of Alto dissolving as awe slams into him. This raw, world-shattering power shatters everything he ever imagined. Alto narrows his eyes, studies the smoking wreckage, and his blood runs cold. The dragon isn't defeated after all. Frankie erupted, bellowing, "What the hell is going on? The dragon was supposed to be defeated." Armored figures surge up around them. Alto rockets forward to intercept as fighting erupts. Someone yells, "Stay back," and another hurls a blazing fireball at the charging threats. Armored soldiers erupt into panicked screams as the situation careens wildly out of control. A soldier's desperate cry shatters the air while another voice bursts out, utterly baffled, as Alto watches the chaos spill across the scene, concern burning in his eyes. A soldier's eyes snap to Alto in recognition. He jabs a finger and roars, "What are you doing in a place like this?" They never imagined they'd reunite like this. Frankie blurts, asking if that soldier is one of Alto's acquaintances, and Alto answers with a tight nod. He's an old colleague. The soldier pleads, breath ragged, "I only signed up for the money. They ordered me to deal with the monsters here." Frankie snaps, jabbing a finger and roaring, "Who the hell are these people? Who are these people, and what purpose do they even serve here?" The soldier screams, "I know nothing." Alto locked eyes with him, his stare razor-sharp and unblinking, daring him to move. The soldier swore he knew nothing, but Alto cut him off, snarling, "Don't lie, I know." Alto snaps, "You're useless to me now," and coldly casts the soldier aside. Frankie coldly snaps a nod and admits it. A woman's panic-laced cry shreds the air. "We stayed there until this morning. The princess is still inside." Someone hisses Minton and claims others were there too. Another voice snarls mimics and confirms it's Minton. With a thunderous roar, the dragon spews a second cataclysmic wall of searing flame. A cold certainty snaps through one of them. This isn't a coincidence. They bark that they're heading straight back to Minton now, and the group answers, confirming the order and scrambling to move out. Frankie exclaims he's glad they picked the emergency return signal on the spot. And right on cue, a flare rockets into the sky. They lock onto the signal and panic explodes. One soldier bellows at the others to run while they still can. Alto barrels in, slicing them down before they even get away. Now the soldiers lie pinned to the ground, tied down and powerless. Charlotte's face went taut with worry as she pressed her hands together and whispered a small, fierce prayer for the princess's safety. Alto snaps, "I'll call the military police to pick up the captured soldiers later," and someone nods in agreement. Alto and the others charged toward Minton, sprinting off and leaving the bound mercenaries tied and helpless in their wake. They race to the castle and are slammed by horror, bodies strewn across the grounds and choking the stairs. Alto stares at the blood-soaked wreckage, chest tightening as he registers that not a single soul survived. Frankie freezes, horror ripping through him with the same brutal force that hits everyone else at the massacre. Suddenly, voices from below explode, shouting, "Alto, Frankie, Captain Arthur." Lily and Mia stand reeling, shaken to their cores. Lily can't fathom that everyone was alive just this morning. Mia snaps, "Any survivors?" Alto confirms they're here, then snaps orders. Finding the princess is priority one. Everyone scour the castle. They erupt across the castle grounds, fanning out to scour every corner as the search begins. They sweep through the castle and stumble on bodies strewn across every corridor. One of the female members gapes at corpses strewn in every direction. Then Alto's eyes go cold as he spits out the sick truth. The maids and servants were spared, only the soldiers were butchered. They keep searching when a light-haired captain suddenly appears. Alto snaps at him, urgent and furious. "Eric, what do you mean by this?" They unmasked him as the captain of the 3rd Royal Guard. Duke Minton stands shattered by the massacre, and Alto's voice rips through the silence as he demands how this could have happened, his mind reeling at the truth that everyone's dead. Meanwhile, blonde Captain Eric storms over to Captain Arthur and announces he's swept through most of the other rooms. Bad news slams in. The princess is missing, nowhere to be found, and Eric fears she's been abducted. One of them snaps, "No bodies, they're probably still alive." Alto snaps, "No time to wait for reinforcements, we're going after them now." He bellows his agreement, and Mia and Lily snap back matching yeses, primed to bolt out. Night crashes into the forest clearing, swallowing the last scrap of daylight. A deafening blast shatters the air as someone screams for everyone to get out. Bound figures sprawled across the ground as frantic voices tore through the air, crying names like Xiao Ding in raw, desperate panic. One person smirks and declares they brought them here exactly as planned. A bound captive roars, demanding to be set free. Minister Wilo materializes and Charlotte's eyes snap to him. She screams his name even as ropes bite into her wrists. Wilo bursts into a cold laugh, sneering, "What on earth are you talking about? It can't be helped," then barks for someone to strip her down, everything off, leave only her arms. Duke Minton's voice slices through the chaos, and Wilo's blood runs cold as he realizes his own voice has betrayed him while he screams for Princess Charlotte. Wilo's voice slices the air as he proclaims the princess, the country's 2nd most powerful, now kneels before him, drenched in blood. Charlotte roars, eyes blazing, "Why did you unleash this violence, Willow?" Duke Minton's wicked smile curled beside her, as O'Comely snapped this was no reckless stunt. Every move had been planned long in advance. He smirks and reveals the exact trick that baited her all the way out here, straight into the mountain's depths. Wilo throws his arms wide in a theatrical sweep, and roars that the plan won't be complete until he's killed Charlotte. Charlotte, still bound, lashes out with defiant fury. If his only aim was to kill her, he should have ended it back at Minton Castle. Wilo hisses for her to stop squirming and coldly vows he'll kill her properly. Charlotte cut him off, voice like a whip. "Why did you drag everyone in Mint and Castle into this?" Wilo snarls that before he kills Charlotte, there's one glaring thorn he has to rip out, and he'll finish off Arthur of the Royal Guard while he's at it. He suddenly declares Charlotte will be his hostage, and she freezes, eyes wide as shock slams into her like a freight train. Charlotte begs Willow to stop, but he barrels on. Arthur has sabotaged his noble plans time and again. Someone nearby nods in agreement, and Willow snarls that the damage they've suffered is immeasurable. Charlotte's face hardens as she realizes Willow intends to kill both her and Captain Arthur, and she snaps. "Did you engineer all of this just to clear the way for the prince's faction?" Wilo confirms he's the kind who plans every move with surgical caution, and warns there's still a mountain of work looming in the future after all. Willow bursts into laughter, admitting even he has to call it a flawless plan. If Charlotte hears the people are under attack by monsters. He already knew she'd send Arthur's squad packing as Alto, and the others slid into position nearby. O cackled, reveling that striking while the nuisances were gone had made everything fall perfectly into place. Carriages thunder through the forest as Willow jeers, certain they tell themselves there's no time to summon backup even now. He scoffs, pathetic, just a distant yearning for justice and a single lonely squad. Willow's face twisted into a smug, predatory smirk, as he sneered they'd come all this way, only to become monster fodder. Charlotte snaps back, fury blazing. We're proud knights, nothing like you. Do you really think it'll all go exactly the way you planned? A brutal strike slams into Charlotte, tearing a raw howl from her throat. Willow snarls for her to shut her insolent mouth and spits, little brat. Then sneers he could kill her this instant, and only keeps her alive because he allows it, while Charlotte's face twists with pain and tears as she endures the abuse. Arthur's squad tore through the forest on thundering hooves, hot on the trail Willow's forces had left behind. One of the female knights cries out to the captain, "Something's wrong." The sky's bone dry, but the wheel tracks they're following are carved into the earth, deep, razor-clear, and impossible to miss. Alto drops to his knees, studies the dirt, and snaps. Those obvious tracks were planted on purpose. A cold dread hits the squad as they realize they've been baited straight into an ambush. Someone snarls that Willow left such blatant clues it's bait, and Alto snaps back. If Willow just wanted Charlotte dead, he wouldn't have abducted her and staged this whole cover-up. Alto's blood ran cold. This wasn't just an attack on the princess. They were likely planning to wipe out the 7th Royal Guard with her. Mia and Lily locked eyes, drew a hard breath, and readied themselves to storm into whatever waited ahead. The chase hurls them into a fork in the road, and the Shinwa tracks snake away down both paths. Frankie snaps to the enemy's ploy. They're trying to split them up. They eyeballed both routes. The right dead ends at a mountain hut, a ready-made, perfect hideout. The left winds off into nothing but a lonely mountain trail. Alto narrows his gaze and declares the odds favor the enemy taking the right-hand path. Frankie snaps the plan into place, sending himself and Alto racing down the right path and dispatching Mia and Lily to scout the left. Mia buzzes with excitement and snaps, orders confirmed. Alto snaps, don't overdo it. He winces at the thought of sending only rookies but grudgingly admits they've got the skill to handle it. He roars orders. If they find the princess, ignite a colossal fire lance as a beacon, and the rest of the squad will storm there instantly. The group snaps back a sharp, unanimous understood. Veering down the left path, the female knight scoffed that the princess probably isn't on this route. It's just a game trail now. Alto's eyes snap to fresh wheel tracks gouged into the grass, and he yells, "I've found them." Pushing through the tangled vegetation, Alto's eyes zero in on a lone light glinting in the distance. Alto thrusts his fire lance skyward, igniting a roaring beacon that screams to the others, "The princess has been found." They burst through the trees and find Charlotte bound, trapped in Duke Willow's grip beside a masked figure. Willow bellows for them to stay back, shouting, "Don't come any closer, that's the one who isn't Arthur." He sneers, "Doesn't matter, I plan to finish them both off myself." Alto's eyes snap wide. The minister's face hits him like a punch, freezing him in stunned recognition. Willow snaps, "The only difference is who goes first and who goes last." Charlotte roars at Duke Willow, "Do you even realize what you're doing? I am the princess, this is high treason." Willow repeats the words under his breath, concern etched across his face. The masked figure beside him flashes a grin and taunts, "Who exactly can prove that?" Willow steels himself and snarls, "None of you walk out of here alive." The masked figure erupted into an ancient incantation. Words of a forgotten magical tongue tearing the air as their hands shaped sharp, precise gestures. Lily's eyes snapped to the swirling magic circle and the incantation knitting itself into the air. Cold terror spikes through her. Something deadly is coming. The masked figure utters the final syllable, seals the spell, and launches a blistering fireball. The fireball attack hurtles out like a molten comet, slamming into its mark with bone-crushing impact. Alto and Lily reel, mouths agape, as a jagged blast of magic barrels straight at them. Bound in Willow's hold, Charlotte threw back her head and laughed, taunting, "Isn't it magnificent?" The masked figure summons their servant, the great, scalded dragon, and the massive skeletal worm erupts with a thunderous roar as the figure barks an order to slaughter Alto and his group. The undead behemoth looming over them with titanic bones casting a deathly shadow across the battlefield. Alto wastes no time. He stacks his abilities, ignites a physical buff and a magic buff, then unleashes a blazing fire lance. The enhanced spell crashes into the skeletal dragon, detonating with brutal, amplified force. Alto grits his teeth, muscles screaming as he strains from the effort while Lily fights on, shoulder to shoulder with him. Alto's mind raced as he tore through the situation. He unleashed an attack with both physical and magical buffs cranked to maximum, and the dragon didn't even flinch. His eyes snag a crucial detail. It seems unable to take flight. He yanks out another fire lance and flips his plan to strike the grounded threat. Alto roared he'd shatter the skeletal dragon's legs and leave it utterly unable to move. His enhanced attacks pulverized the creature's limbs, shattering bone and wrenching joints with brutal force. Every time his magic slammed into bone, it detonated into brutal, blinding explosions. Alto snaps, eyes blazing. Did Duke Wilo raise those monsters? Duke Minton barked that the monsters Alto fought through brutal clashes yesterday and today. Charlotte nodded sharply. They were brutal, she agreed. Duke Wilo throws back his head and roars, gloating that it was that idiot dog who sold it to him so easily, letting him complete the project. Alto reels, shock exploding through him as he realizes Arasso and Dog were involved in the scheme. The explanation keeps unfolding. After dissecting its composition, they forged the strongest dragon, and Duke Wilo roars they made it the hardest of all. A brutal truth slams down. The dragon in the mine was part of the plan, too. The traces on that idiot's sword screamed it was. It was a barrier skill born from the old generation's lost magic, so devastating it entombed a legendary S-rank dragon zombie. Down below, Alto freezes as the full scope of their conspiracy slams into their mind. Duke Wilo scoffs at the mine dragon as a half-baked flop. Someone warns that Wiro let his guard down, and Wilo snaps, "Don't you dare lump that failure in with my perfected creation." Out of nowhere, something shatters the silence, and someone reels back, blood running cold with alarm. Bones clacking, the skeletal dragon prowls the forest, each step a hollow drumbeat. Lily fires dispel shot. Her magic detonates, ripping every enchantment to shreds. He unleashed a bone-crushing blow on the skeletal dragon. Alto roars for her to sprint, eyes wide as he shouts that the barrier's gone. Lily explodes forward as someone ignites the holy sword, the blade erupting in sacred light while she hurtles in for the strike. Duke Wilo laughed, crowing he wasn't careless. His barrier magic had fused completely into the dragon's very tissues. He roars that every move they make will be for nothing. Lily's jaw drops as her attack skids off the dragon untouched. Panic surges when she realizes no matter how hard she tries to nullify the barrier, it's unlike anything she's faced before. Duke Wilo roared about what he'd seized: the massive frame, the painstaking research, the devastating results and raw power, and grinning like a madman, declared it all glorious while admitting he never really got to test it in open combat. A voice barks, "Time to bring this to a close." Duke Wilo barks for the skeletal dragon to finish Alto, crying out to the great, scalded dragon as the creature unleashes a devastating attack. Lily screams, "Dragon breath," and commands everyone to fall back instantly as a jagged ice wall erupts between them and the blast. A divine barrier snaps into place as well. Dread slams into Alto, trapped between a blistering heat wave and that massive range. The situation is dire. The attack spread is way too wide to dodge. Then the dragon unleashed a searing breath that slammed into them, detonating with brutal force and hurling everyone backward. Someone's voice rips through the air, calling, "Ms. Lily." Alto roars, "Lily, Mia," as the blast rips through their defensive position. Someone asks, the ice wall snaps, roaring back to life. A shout rips out, "Are Lily and Mia okay?" Lily winces and forces out that she's all right, even though she's clearly taken damage. Someone snaps at Alto to forget checking on them, and instead hunt down a faster, smarter way to handle this. He jabbed him, grinning, "Remember how we ripped into the hellhound by smashing its mouth, its one weak spot." Someone sneers, cost-efficiency nut at Alto. He goes still. Then his brain ignites and he starts running the numbers. He remembers them shattering the dragon zombie's core and sending the monster crashing down. It can't be invincible. There's got to be at least one weak spot. Alto realizes that splitting the pursuers into two groups rips the dragon's invincibility wide open. He scrambles to find the weakness, racing the clock before it's too late. He normally had the luxury of trial and error, and executing complex processes demanded fusing syntax perfectly. Now he wonders if he can even carve that intricate spell text in the sliver of time, or if he should flip on auto-magic, spam skills, and just record the damage. A bolt of realization slams into him. He's sitting on a brand new skill he's never used before, instant scripting. He unleashed a completely different method, a bold new approach he'd never tried before. Alto slams instant transcription into action. A torrent of fireballs batters his foe while the spell tallies damage from every hit and locks onto the exact spot taking the most damage. Arcane runes and frantic equations explode into being, racing across the air. Alto's breath caught. A task that used to chew up hours was now wrapping up in a single blink. Alto unleashes the weakness scan. An onlooker gasps that he's unleashing non-stop 32-shot barrages, and Lily yells that he's strafing the dragon from snout to tail, hammering every inch at once. Duke Wyloskov sneered, calling it a useless barrage of numbers, not a single hit that could so much as bruise the dragon. Those sparks wouldn't even count as a massage. Razor-fast scans tear across the skeletal dragon, cataloging every impact on its massive frame, and the system zeroes in on one glaring weakness, the base of the wings. Alto sparks his fire lance to life and zeroes its inferno on the weak point he just uncovered. A concentrated spear of blazing magic screamed forward and slammed into the dragon's wing base with surgical pinpoint accuracy. The fire lance slams home with deadly precision, each explosive hit battering the dragon's vulnerable wing joints into ruin. Lillian and Mia gaped as the attacks shredded the creature's defenses like paper. The assault rages on as the holy sword erupts in light, then an ice lance launches, streaking through the air. Together they unleash a magical barrage that hammers the dragon's weak points mercilessly, each spell striking the perfect seam to maximize the damage. The dragon crumples to the ground, someone's shout rips through the air. They erupted into triumphant cheers, hoisting Alto high as pure excitement surged through them. Duke Wylo gapes, disbelief scorching his face as he spits that this is impossible. There's no way this just happened. The masked figure screams in pain while the undead dragon crumbles into a broken heap beneath them. Duke Wylo spits curses, roaring this was never meant to be, everything's unraveled. Lily unleashes Ice Shot, a jagged spear of frost hurtling dead-on at Duke Wylo. The attack slams into the Duke. He rips out a raw, pained scream. He roars at them, demanding to know what the hell they're doing, and Lily retaliates with an ice hand that clamps around him and pins him immobile. Meanwhile, Alto bolted to Princess Charlotte's side, breathless and blurted, "Are you all right?" Charlotte lies battered and spent, barely able to squeeze out words, and every week she forces Alto's name into the air. Alto lunges to her side, grabs her hand and declares she's safe now, breathless and sharp. "Are you hurt anywhere?" Charlotte lunges forward, fingers clawing at him as she screams his name again. Lily and Mia stand frozen, mouths agape, shock carved into their faces as the whole scene unfolds before them. Alto froze, shock splashed across his face, as Charlotte latched onto him, clinging tight and showering him with breathless, repeated thanks. Panic punches Alto's gut as he pictures himself being charged with Lisma just for the whole fiasco. He shoves the thought aside, blurts it to her anyway, relief roaring through him that the princess is safe. Charlotte locks eyes with Alto and demands he call her Charlotte whenever he speaks to her. A grin of vindication split her face. She'd been right to recommend him for the royal guard. Alto plants himself beside her, silent and unshakable. Later that night, they lingered under the stars, Charlotte's heart hammering from everything they'd just been through. Meanwhile, at the Wellesley estate, an official stood poised to act. The official drops the verdict. The intel holds up, it's reliable. Headlines explode, Minister Wylo has been arrested. At the same time, someone else is reeling as the conspiracy's full horror clicks into place. The Scalded was a genuine S-rank monster that would make even top fighters struggle to defeat it. They burned a king's ransom to outfit the Scalded and forge a razor-edged strike team to storm Minton Castle. They'd gambled everything to snag a minister's seat, and the whole scheme spectacularly imploded. Their mission, erase the princess and Alto, a breathless messenger crashed into their master, shouting the name of the one who defeated the Scalded. The enhancement should have forged the monster into a juggernaut. Arthur and a handful of allies couldn't breach it easily. The servant drops a bombshell. His name is Alto. The master hears the name and explodes into a blood-curdling scream, his composure shattering into raw, frantic panic. Officials keep hashing it out as Minister Huro is dragged in as the mastermind behind the incidents, clamped into total silence about his other crimes, and someone leans to the master and spits that any atonement won't be accepted. The master roared at them, "Don't be foolish. Even if the charges don't stick, the scandal of cozying up to the minister will scorch his reputation. If his faction collapses, his bid to become minister will go up in smoke." A voice erupts, slicing the silence with a sharp shout. At the Wellesley estate, Alto's father sits at his desk, rifling through documents with his face taut with frustration, muttering that nothing is going right and cursing the whole situation. His expression snaps alive as realization explodes across his face. The perfect stepping stone is sitting right in front of him. He clenches his jaw and severs his ties with the prince's faction. No reason to stay now that it's come to this. A few days later, Princess Charlotte sweeps back into the royal palace, her elegant gown billowing like a royal banner. Eric, captain of the 3rd Royal Guard, strides forward and greets her return. Charlotte drops into a deep bow and unleashes a frantic torrent of apologies. Eric snaps for her to lift her head. Charlotte reveals the 3rd Royal Guard was cut down shielding her. As the one destined to unite and lead the people, she's already had to give her condolences with the proper solemnity. Charlotte's jaw clenched with worry, but someone barked that the guards were only doing their nightly duty. Keeping her safe was reward enough. Charlotte's face went hollow as the words slammed into her like a punch. Someone throws the question at Arthur, "Did you rescue the princess?" And the answer snaps back. It was the rookies who defeated the Scalded and carried the princess to safety. An onlooker spun to Arthur and roared, "These rookies are astounding." And Arthur nodded. He truly did a magnificent job. Charlotte spits that if they hadn't been there, Wilo would have taken her life. And someone hollers that this deserves a medal. The official dismissed everyone for now to let them rest, and another voice cut in, declaring they'd make their report right away. They're ordered to deliver every scrap of intel on Arthur. Alto squares up beside Lily, Mia and the others as they burst into an ecstatic roar. Alto, Charlotte, and Mia stride out of the palace together, shoulders squared and determination crackling between them. Lily locks eyes on them and calls out to Alto. Someone breathes that they pushed themselves to the brink and finally might get some rest today, but worry flickers across Lily's face as Alto walks away with the others. Alto spins and finds a ponytailed, bespectacled man in formal attire standing in the palace courtyard, blocking his path and staring him down. Alto's lay on the ground, staring up at the man towering over him, his father, Marquis Wellesley. Marquis Wellesley tells Alto he fought through those hardships and emerged a truly respectable man. He thunders that now Alto has become what he is. He will grant him leave to return to the proud house of Wellesley. Alto's jaw dropped as he gaped up at his father, shock crashing into him like a punch. Alto stares down his father, Marquis Wellesley, and declares, "There's no turning back." From afar, Lily and Mia witness the confrontation ignite as Alto proclaims he's found comrades who truly believe in him. He no longer needs the Wellesley family. Marquis Wellesley exploded at Alto, his voice a thunderclap as he demanded, "How much more ungrateful do you intend to be?" Calm as ice, Alto tosses out a quick excuse and strides away from his father. Later on, Lily snaps at Alto, "You're finally cutting ties with that family." Alto snaps a sharp nod and drops a clipped "Got it," short, unmistakable. The scene snaps to an ornate palace chamber as Prince Richard Charlotte sprawls in an elaborate chair, lounging with cool, regal poise. He looms over the man on his knees, sneering that he's impressed the man had the nerve to show his face. In the glittering opulence of the chamber, Marquis Wellesley drops into a low, reverent bow before the prince. Crashing to his knees, he admits he severely underestimated the 7th Imperial Guard's ferocious might. Prince Richard jabbed a finger and snarled, "Is this man to blame for Wilo's blunder too?" The man snaps that Duke Wilo botched the operation. He even handed over Skull dead. Prince Richard proclaimed he'd heard the preparations were more than sufficient. The man snaps that the rookie knight's presence turned the tide. He's Alto, installed on the princess's recommendation. Prince Richard's gaze snapped to Alto's name, the room buzzing that Alto had crushed the House of Bones scheme, and nobody expected he'd send even Wilo crashing to ruin. Prince Richard roared, "It's the results that matter." He slams down the truth. The princess is alive and the throne now tilts toward her. He leans in, eyes blazing, and demands, "How do you plan to settle this?" The dark-haired man presses on with his report to Prince Richard and coldly commands the princess's death. She might be stuck as a commoner now. Down in the chamber's lower tier, a blonde noblewoman sneers that words are cheap, and he snaps back. No one outsnoops him on the Wellesleys. He knows, because Alto once stood as the eldest son of his household. She snaps that she won't trust him until she sees results with her own eyes, demanding he prove his usefulness to her. He drops into a bow, affirms he understands, and vows to begin the preparations immediately. A few days later at the Wellesley estate, the door explodes open as someone barrels in, breathless and furious, yelling at the master. "Is it really true?" The dark-haired man flashes a grin and snaps, "No problem, I need to kick up a little commotion." Marquis Wellesley railed, roaring that if they push this through the country will plunge into chaos no one can contain. The dark-haired man, cool as ice, lays out the plan. Bait the knights away from the royal capital by picking a pawn within the radius they can control, and don't bother defeating them, they're just a distraction. The dark-haired man planted himself behind the ornate desk as a voice shot back. Understood, will comply. In a heartbeat, someone collapses over their desk. A servant bolts forward, shouting what's wrong, and crying out to their lord. Later, as he prepares to depart, Marquis Wellesley fixes the dark-haired man with a hard look and roars, "Good luck in the battle." The dark-haired man strides through the estate's interior, his footsteps booming like drumbeats down the halls. Someone called out "good luck," and he flashed a quick, grateful nod. He presses on, his gaze hardening into grim resolve. Realizing he too must brace for the worst, he declares they'll use the great center Camilla as part of their contingency plan.